Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Hey, here we are. Three-man show.
Woo! Brad's not here. His daughter played in the Big Ten championship game last night.
Yes, he left last night. I'm not sure if Ohio State played in it or not, but they left last night.
No, Maryland, right?
Maryland, sorry.
Maryland.
Yeah.
That girl, hey, listen, I was at, first time I've ever been to a brew garden. Me and my mom and dad went there.
Wow.
It was pretty decent.
Oh, we had a famous radio incident
At the brew garden?
Uh-oh.
I'm not sure if I could tell the story.
Well,
Someone get arrested?
Screw it.
like to hear who's
all right. So there's you know the brew garden?
Yep.
It's in,
I
what is
do.
it technically? Parma, Middleburg Heights?
I think Parma. Is it Parma?
Is the brew garden in Parma or Middleburg Heights? Do you know? Come on.
The Parma kid says he's not sure.
It might be Middleburg then if the
Anyway,
Parma kid doesn't know it.
Yeah.
We were doing we used to do the radio show there a lot.
I think you told this story before.
Did I tell the story already?
Yeah, we keep going.
Oh, okay.
By the way, Brad's daughter did not play yesterday.
Oh, okay.
They lost to Iowa in the semifinals.
Oh, listen.
So who won the Big Ten Women's Championship?
Iowa.
That
Iowa.
girl, that Caitlin girl?
Caitlin Clark could ball, bro. She could
Yeah,
ball.
I watched them play in the regular season. She is a beast. She does everything.
She had like 30, 14, and 17 last night.
She had a triple-double in the championship game last night.
Tough
30,
handle.
10 rebounds, 17 assists.
Oh, my God.
I watched that game. Brew garden, what happened?
So we're there. We're doing the broadcast. Something happened. One of our salespeople got into a fight, an argument with the owner of the restaurant, who I don't think is there anymore.
No.
And the owner hit our sales guy.
I think you did.
And
tell
we
that
were
story
supposed
one
to
other time.
stay. I think it was draft day. And that's right. I was supposed to do like a live appearance after the show. I was going to hang out with fans.
Right.
But we canceled. We had to cancel the whole thing. We switched it to another bar. It was a whole crazy thing.
You know a radio remote's bad when fisticuffs break out.
Right. And the
Between
owner,
management and radio staff.
and the owner was like, hold on. What did he say to have an owner, a man of status, put hands on him?
I don't know, but that
He wasn't an owner, though. He was a manager,
I
right?
can't remember if he was the owner or the manager, but he was.
If it's the owner, it's evil.
That guy was out of control, though. He was nut job. But I almost got into a fight in a bar once with our old buddy Chuck Booms. Remember Chuck Booms?
Oh, man. Listen, see, now.
You also told a story once where a guy just came in and started
Yeah, he
hammering
got
you.
mad at me.
Yeah.
He was mad because I had told him that he slept in his mom's. Oh, that I basically said I hooked up with his mom.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah, that's always
Whatever.
safe.
But yeah.
Let's start with the diet watch. How
lost
do you
it.
feel? How did it go over the weekend?
It's funny.
Weekends are tough.
Saturday was no problem.
Okay.
And then Sunday morning was no problem. And I was telling these guys, from 12 to 5 yesterday,
Yeah.
I was so hungry for 5 hours. It was the first time I'd experienced that. And I went a little over my calories. And then I had dinner at 5. And then I didn't eat anything again until 10 o'clock this morning. Because I was just fine again. And I also found out on Thursday that actually the medication that I'm taking doesn't really take effect until 12 weeks in. It builds up, doesn't really. So I'm just
so
doing
you're
it all.
getting small dose, and then the doses will get bigger.
That's right.
Or it builds up in your system.
It builds up. Well, both. It builds up in the system, but it's small doses, and the doses get bigger. So like the first 4 doses are 0.5, then it's 0.25, then it's 0.5, then it goes up to 1.
And you only had 2.
I've only had 2, so I'm really doing it all on my own. So, but yesterday was the first challenge, and I made it through. I still lost in the last 4 days another 1.5 pounds, so I'm down 16.5 pounds in 11 days. So I feel good again, but it was like a 5-hour stretch yesterday that I was really hungry.
Hopefully those will diminish as you take your shots.
Right, and then as we
it'll
get
be better.
that's the thing. 12 weeks in, my diet starts to expand. I can eat a little more, but by then the medicine takes full effect, and my appetite will be quashed.
When you say you can eat a little more, do you mean more calories
Yes.
or just more?
More
have a
calories.
bigger
I'll
offering?
be allowed to have more calories.
Well, good. Okay, so
yeah.
the
But I went
health
over
is
my
okay.
calories a little. I was proud of myself because I went over my calories yesterday for the first time. Not by a ton. Certainly a lot less than I would normally have eaten.
Sure.
But I ended up with about 1,500 calories yesterday.
That's a good number.
Still, yeah. But I didn't allow it to spin out of control.
Right,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
And now I feel good again today. I don't know what it was.
16 and a half pounds, you said. Mm-hmm. So you're on pace to probably lose 30 pounds in a month.
Yeah,
which
I
is
mean,
stunning. Maybe even
obviously
more.
it's slowing down. It's going to slow down, but
yeah,
I think so. I feel really good.
Good, that's great.
Yeah.
Your bet, did you win Friday or did you lose?
I lost on what was it, a 3 at the buzzer or something? I don't
Very
remember.
late 3 from the Heat to cover a
the
2.5
Knicks didn't
point
cover.
spread. The Knicks did win, but the Heat ended up covering plus 2.5. You had picked the Knicks minus 2.5. So
Yeah, well, the Knicks won the game.
yeah, but they were favored by 2.5.
Right, but they won.
They won by 2.
Right, I lost by half a point.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
on a
he covered,
3-pointer.
not
So
the
that's a
Heat.
bad beat. That's a bad beat.
I had
What's
the
your
great
record
win
now?
and then 2 bad 7 and
7 and
5?
6 now. 7 and 6.
7 and
But
6.
hey, Ohio,
Okay.
Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook
Still
is
winning
the
money.
place to be for
7 and 6,
every
yes.
single game, including tonight's Cavs-Celtics game, which we'll reference here in a sec.
Yeah.
Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. You get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey. To help you win big, check out BetRivers.com or download the BetRivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts. Bull, what's your bet today?
Now, this is tricky because I took this bet. The Cavs were a 4-point favorite when I took this bet. The line has now gone up. So I don't know if it's even fair for me to make this bet because I'm telling people to bet it, but I think it's now 6 or 7 because the feeling is that the Celtics are going to sit guys tonight because they played a double overtime game against the Knicks. A couple of their guys got
So
nicked
for our
up.
purposes, do you want to take the current line of?
what's
You're recommending this to fans.
Yes. Mike,
What's the current line?
what is the
One sec.
Look at
As
the
of
current
this
line on Bet
moment,
Rivers.
it's-
On Bet Rivers.
On Bet Rivers, -6.
Okay, let's go -6. I should have to. I'm still taking them because they're at home. We know the Cavs are much better at home, and the Celtics, in my opinion, are going to be playing like a Pistons type of team.
Well, we're assuming that they haven't come out and said they're resting
no,
everybody.
but Vegas knows these things, right?
Well, they tend to.
And the Celtics played double overtime last night. Guys got a little nicked up. I don't think they're playing these guys back to back.
And plus, even if they do play their starters, if the Cavs
They're gonna be tired.
If the Cavs get up 10 points,
They'll sit them.
12
Yeah.
points.
And their last game against the Pistons obviously was a 20-point win, 25-point win, or whatever. So they didn't. It wasn't a max effort game like the Knicks or the Celtics had last night. I would think that's a good bet. I would think the Cavs
we'll
should
see.
cover. But if they play everybody, I don't like the bet at all.
No,
I don't
of
even
course.
like the. If they play their starters,
It's
even
a risky,
tired, I think the Celtics
It's
win.
a risky bet, but I'm assuming Vegas knows something. I already assumed those guys wouldn't play, and now that the line went like that so much, we'll see.
The line started yesterday, by the way. Cavs -1.5. It's up
Yeah.
to 6 now. So
Yeah.
Vegas knows something.
Yeah, well, or they could just be assuming. I mean, it's a safe assumption.
That's right.
But I mean, I'm sure the Celtics coaches haven't told anybody what they're going to do.
Yes,
So
yes,
Vegas is guessing.
Yes, but you
But
know
they're
what happens?
usually their guesses are usually pretty good.
But sometimes when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
That's exactly
And
right.
last thing on the Cavs, we're going to talk about it plenty in a little bit. Donovan Mitchell, who's dealing with a sprained thumb, or sprained finger, is at shoot-around right now. We just saw some tweets.
Okay.
come
He
out.
is, but
So
he is officially questionable for tonight.
he is questionable, but usually showing up at shoot-around
Yeah.
is a good sign
That
that he
helps.
will eventually
Or
play.
he might just test it out, see how it feels.
Right.
You would want to do that anyhow, and the
And
time to
Jay-
do that would be shoot around.
Jay, you sorry to cut you off there, but it's a 1 foot in the parking lot Monday for Jay.
It is,
'Cause
yeah.
You're heading on vacation.
Yeah.
You're working, right?
I'll give you my itinerary for
Yeah.
the 3 different shows I'm servicing.
So you're not really
Check
on
that,
vacation.
4 different shows. No, that's a misnomer. In radio, when you travel to Radio Row for the Super Bowl, those guys have it made because they do their shows and they're done. That's it.
Yeah.
And typically the time that they're working is their shift, their regular shift, whatever that is. When you're doing, obviously I have different kinds of travel. When I was with ESPN, I was doing my show, and
Yeah.
that was it. So that was very, very plush. You could go out at night, do things at night. But here I'm servicing UCSS. I'll do a half-hour live each day from Arizona, is what I've been told. I'm doing 14 feature interviews with players.
Hold
so
on.
14 sit-down interviews.
How long?
Over the course of 5 days.
How
That's-
long?
It's
How long
fun
are those
for you, though.
interviews?
No.
No, it's good because
Yeah.
you get to meet the players. You get to
Right,
connect
right,
with
yeah.
the players a little bit, and you're also learning about them. You're learning things about them that you didn't know,
Yeah.
which is always good. These are human interests, like favorite Cleveland restaurant, what kind
Right,
of
right.
music to
That's
listen
good.
to, like all the offbeat stuff.
Yeah.
So you feel like you get to know them off the field. I know as much as I can possibly know about players, what they do on the field. So I'll
Right.
get to meet them, get to know them away from all that. And then we're also doing live hits for the 4 and the 5 o'clock shows for Channel 3. So it'll be an early day. It'll be late into the, East Coast time is which I'll stay on.
Right, yeah.
It'll be, into the evening, which is typical. I'm having dinner with Curtis Wednesday night. I'm sure I'll have a dinner Tuesday and Thursday night.
Are you going to Pizzeria Bianco, which is the best pizzeria in Arizona?
I probably won't be able to. I would love to. I really would, but it just doesn't look like it's going to fit in.
Goodyear is like the ass end of Arizona.
It is. It's northwest.
Yeah, it's like the furthest suburb.
Or is it southwest? It's south.
It's always bizarre going
Southwest.
past that airport, that airline, the airplane graveyard.
Yes, where they're all lined up.
It's weird.
Forever. Yeah. So it's right there at the facility.
It's like an apocalyptic scene.
You pull up. It is. You pull up, and there's just dozens, if not into the hundreds, of airplanes just lined up on tarmacs. I think they refinished some of them there. They paint them there. But they're all older, so it's like Bull said. It's like, wow, the war is over, and this is what's left.
Right.
It's just a bunch of
it's like
old
The Walking
airplanes.
Dead.
I got to search that on YouTube.
Yeah, it is.
But
it's I'll take some pictures for you because it's right next to the Guardians and the Reds spring training.
Apparently, the weather just turned, and now it's nice and warm out there. I heard.
I talked to Curtis Saturday.
Yeah.
He said, get ready for nice weather.
Yeah.
But they had some days last week where it was warmer here than it was there.
What's nice about doing those type of interviews is guys will loosen up more, as
they
you
will.
know.
Yeah.
When you're not talking.
There's no guard.
Yeah.
It's all fun.
Yeah.
And so it'll be a good time. But there's not going to be a lot of time to
schmooze.
do the fun stuff that you like to do when you typically
Are
on a
there
trip.
any other, spring training facilities besides Arizona and Florida?
No.
No, that's it. There's been rumors that Vegas was going to break off 8 teams and start their own. It hasn't happened
yet. The good
yet.
thing about Arizona is, as opposed to Florida, all the teams are within basically an hour of
the greater Phoenix area. Yeah,
Right.
You'll go as far as Mesa.
Right.
And you'll go Scottsdale, Goodyear, Surprise. They're all within an hour.
Yeah.
It's
Whereas
all
Florida,
very, very
some of them
easy.
are like 4 hours away
Well,
from
hell,
each other or
sometimes
more.
in Florida, you'll go to Vero Beach.
To Orlando.
To Fort Myers, to
Right.
Tampa.
Right.
It's all over the central to mid-South Florida area. But I've done both, and you spend a lot more time driving in Florida than you do in Arizona.
And so so basically, how did they choose where you were going to go? Did Arizona just say, "Hey, we have spring training in Arizona"?
I mean, generally the West Coast teams are in Arizona, the East Coast teams are in Florida,
but not always.
And then not always. And then the Midwest teams are kind of split.
Yeah, like Detroit is in Lakeland.
Right.
The Indians for years were in Winter Haven.
Right.
Yeah.
Way before that, they were in Tucson.
I remember that.
So it's just it all basically these towns, the town where my parents built their retirement home was Surprise. And Surprise was trying to attract businesses and residents at the time my folks moved out there. So they were given huge tax breaks. They give tax abatements. Come out here, you won't pay tax for 10 years. They know then when the teams build beautiful, nice facilities that they're not going to want to move after 10 years. They're just going to start paying whatever the taxes are. So, but there's always competition to get those teams to move to different cities. And there was talk for a while about Vegas maybe siphoning off 8 teams, because you'd have to have at least 8 to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Right now, I think it's like 16 and 14 or 15 and 15 maybe that go Florida.
I think it is
to
now
Arizona.
15 and 15.
It's real close if it's not 50.
Guys, as much and as interesting as
I know
the
you're bored by
geography
this.
of spring training is, we got a lot to get to today.
Yeah, we do. We
got to run into it.
We've got Dequell coming up. He was at the Combine. We'll talk to him. Today we're doing top 5 left fielders in baseball. I know my number 1 will shock you guys, maybe even upset some of you. The Cavs Celtics, we're going to talk about that. And Browns free agent news, which is where we got to start because, guys, all
first
of a
there's
sudden
breaking news in the NFL because Derek Carr signed with the Saints.
No, he hasn't signed.
Well, it's
He's
unofficial.
agreed to terms.
Yeah.
They've agreed to terms.
And I just heard on the NFL Network moments ago that they're just the leading contender. That's it. So we got to be careful. It's not. And even this says, and they've emerged as the front runner.
Everyone else is saying it's essentially done. We'll wait till
the NFL Network, they couched it this way. That he knows their 4-year offer. The Jets are working on a counter.
Oh.
So until the hay is in the barn on this.
They're making it seem like it's over.
Yeah, the first reports that I heard early this morning was like it was done.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he can't sign the contract yet.
Well,
but
he can because he was cut.
Oh, no, yes, he can. He was cut. He's different. He's not in the free
Yeah.
agent class. I guess what they're waiting on is the Jets' offer to see whether or not the Jets are going to counter. The Jets obviously need a quarterback, and they were said to be in on it.
Yeah.
But the NFL Network's guys, just 15, 20 minutes ago, were saying that it looks like it's going to be Saints, and it likely will be.
From Ian Rappaport, Saints are giving Derek Carr a four-year deal. Source said, with the big QB number coming, they'll make it work within their current cap situations. So.
Right. Giving him, the key language is, has accepted. And I don't see that language anywhere, and that's what the NFL Network was saying. Hold on, guys. It's not done. Until you see this, Derek Carr signs with Saints, it's open. We've learned this before in these negotiations. It looks like a player's going someplace, and then a team ponies up at the last minute.
Kind of like the Giants. Who was the dude signed the contract with the Giants? It was like no.
Well, that was a failed physical. That was a little different.
And then the Mets, and then and eventually went back to the Twins. Okay, so
but
we'll talk about some of that.
Yeah.
We're going to focus mostly on this free agent talk on the positions that the Browns are most interested in. And obviously, Fletcher Cox now is a name that's out there, as is Brandon Graham. And so let's start there, because those are the two most likely, or at least one of those two is most likely, because of the familiarity with Schwartz and those two players. I can't imagine either of you are going to say no on Brandon Cox.
No, Fletcher Cox.
Fletcher Cox, I'm sorry. Brandon Graham's a different story. I'm not a go on Brandon. I'm a definite go on Fletcher Cox.
I'm
Brandon
fine
Graham,
with either of those guys.
I don't know about Graham. I think he's older, and when I watch Fletcher Cox, I still see the explosion and the motor that you want at that position.
I think they can both still play.
I think if Brandon Graham is at this point is he better than Alex Wright?
Well, he's better than what we have, but the question is going to be on the price.
How much money, right?
Yeah, but guys like that are interesting in spots like defensive tackle and linebacker because you don't have to make a long-term commitment.
Right. Well, it wouldn't on either guy.
Brandon Graham had...
Oh, he had 11 sacks?
Coming off...
Yeah. Well, remember, though, he's playing in a line that had 70. Jesus. So there were holes everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's going to be guys that feast because of that.
I hear you. I just think I know. I was reading an article about him on PFF, and they were amazed by how well he played.
So you still like him?
He graded out well. Fletcher Cox certainly I would like more.
I would love Fletcher Cox.
I'm fine with either of them. And between those guys and Eric Kendricks, who got cut by the Vikings today at linebacker, these are guys that the Browns could go after that are perfect pieces for what the Browns are looking for.
Yeah.
Veteran leadership. Guys that have won, especially the Eagles guys have won. They know Schwartz. Kendrick, I assume, knows Stefanski because he's been in Minnesota forever. Eric Kendrick still at 30 or 31, whatever he is, was, according to PFF, one of the top 15 run-stopping linebackers in the league, which is exactly what they need.
He gets 100 tackles a year,
Yeah, he's a classic old-school middle linebacker. Yeah. I'm sure Dequell will love him.
Follows the ball and gets to the carry.
I think if the Browns can get Kendricks and one of those two guys, either Cox or Graham, that's to me, those are home run additions.
Yeah.
Because they're guys that are proven. You know what they're capable of.
I want Bates, too. If you throw in Bates on the
now
back end, I'm getting greedy. You know why?
Greedy.
Here's why I'm getting greedy. Because I listened to G on Friday, and G's like, the hell with it. I want this. I want that. And give me that. And give me this.
They have to.
A la
carte.
Have to go all in. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're going to shoot for the stars and spend his money.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Then let's do it. I mean, if that's what we're going to do, then let's do it.
I mean, if they end up with Cox, Kendricks, Bates, and Brandon Cooks via trade, that's a home run off season.
They're ready for the season, and they're automatically a contender in this division.
And you look at it, I like to pair young guys with old guys.
Yeah, it's a nice mix.
I like the mix because I'm not going to ask Brandon Graham to play 70 snaps.
No.
I'm going to ask you to give me 25 of your best third down reps you can give me. I don't even really think Fletcher Cox going to be playing all that much. That's why I got a guy like Perion Winfrey that can mix and match. Maybe if you could get something out of, I don't know if Togiai's going to be worth nothing, but
Isaiah Thomas?
Isaiah Thomas.
Maybe.
Those guys will make them better.
And plus, you can still go
And Jim
draft.
Schwartz will make them better, too.
Yes.
Jim Schwartz will make them better. Those guys will make them better. And I think guys like that, seasoned veteran winners, will make even Myles Garrett better.
What I like about Fletcher Cox is he's going to be a guy that comes in and sets a tone right away.
That's right.
Guys, we're mean, we're nasty, and we're working hard.
Yes.
Period. End of discussion. And they don't have that guy right now.
No.
And the best part about it is guys that have tasted the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
They've tasted it. They've
Same
been
thing with
there.
Bates.
They've won.
They've won and close. they're not going to take none of that. They're going to come in there, and Jim Schwartz is going to say, guys, these are the tone setters. These are my guys. They know what to do, and they know exactly the way I want to play it. And everybody will fall in line. I love the fact that you could get some of these guys
What
on
if you could only get one of the 4 names we just mentioned? Which one do you want?
Well, I'm taking Fletcher Cox.
I would say Cox
too.
1.
Yeah, I would take Fletcher Cox.
I would say Cox 1.
It fills the biggest hole that we have.
Yes. And then, but I think they're all, I think I would definitely go Cox 1 and then either Brandon Graham or Kendricks 2.
Okay, I have Kendricks 2, Bates 3, Graham 4.
I love Bates.
Am I off, G. Bush?
No, I like, if you're going to give me a couple of these dudes and I can find them, I don't mind spending on Bates then. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because now you got a nice high-priced guy back there. You solidify that. Plus, you getting some run-stopping ability. I like the fact that now you're starting to see the names pick up.
If you add Cox or Graham and then Kendricks and then Bates and the perfect, thing that would make everybody happy, right? Now you've added a proven veteran at all 3 levels, a guy who's a leader at all 3 levels, and in the case of the Eagles guys and Bates at least, guys who have been to the Super Bowl. And in the Eagles case, guys who have won the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you this, because you know their defense so well.
Yeah.
If the Browns were to add 3 of those 4 names, would you like their defense better than the Bengals?
It's a good question.
Depends on who the Bengals lose, right?
It depends,
I think we know what's going to happen
Well,
there.
the Bengals have 3 guys who are free agents right now. One linebacker, and then both their safeties are free agents on defense. If they lose...
The Bates, by the way, they've shown no effort at all to re-sign
No,
Bates.
they're not going to sign Bates. The Browns are already better at corner than the Bengals. The Bengals right now have a much better defensive line than the Browns, but obviously if they added Fletcher Cox, it'd be improved. I still think the Bengals would have the better D-line because you'd still only have 2 legitimate starters. I think linebacker would be close.
Yeah, but I
think
mean, Myles Garrett is kind of, Myles Garrett's better than anybody on the Bengals defensive front by far.
I think it would be close. I think they would be neck and neck.
Yeah.
I would have to see what else the Browns did and what else the Bengals did. But that alone would make it neck and neck.
The consensus is, though, if you add 2, 3 of these names, you have drastically improved your defense, which was the weakness last year, and you've really addressed the hemorrhage wound, which was the defensive line.
Yeah.
You've gotten better at the 2 coaching positions that were talked about all season long.
That's right.
And not just better, I think home runs at both.
I agree.
You got a former head coach and a terrific defensive coordinator in one, and in the other, in Ventrone, you've got a guy that we've heard home run was the way it was described to us.
I think we've got
Phil
Jay on the Kool-Aid right now.
We've sold him.
He is excited. This is the first time I've seen excited Browns fan Jay in a long time.
Hey,
you're right.
He's excited right now.
You know why? Because I listened to G. Bush on Friday, and G was like, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car.
They have to.
So
the
listen,
Browns have to do that.
I've always subscribed to the idea that fiscal responsibility is very important.
Yeah.
But if we're going to pretend that bylaw of the NFL no longer exists, and here's the other thing, and from now on, if we're going to kill the Dolans for not writing checks, I think Jimmy and Dee Haslam opened themselves up to a
100%.
whole new can of criticism when they decided they were going to take nearly $1 billion. And by the way, the amount now is in question.
Yeah.
But let's just
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right now, the reported figure is $875 million, but there are those with the buck saying it wasn't
Who
that
cares?
much.
Even if it's $500 million, it's a ton of money.
If you're going to tell me that Jimmy and Dee Haslam have the kind of money that they can just write an $875 million check to be part minority owners of another team,
That's crazy.
Then you damn well have the money to stick in whatever it costs here.
That's right.
To give us what this city deserves, a winner.
That's 100% correct. And I know, I'll speak for G because I know he's going to agree with me here. If the Browns don't go bananas this offseason adding talent, I'm freaking killing Jimmy, and I'm killing the whole organization.
And they deserve
There
it.
is no excuse.
You're right.
You jumped in the 10-foot deep level of the pool by trading for Deshaun Watson. You can't half-ass it now.
Nope. You waste that investment.
That's right.
If you don't
What are you
put
doing?
the pieces around him that he's going to need to get him back to his Houston level, then you wasted that $230 million too.
And I read, by the way, in Mary Kay's column,
which is great. Read it.
Great column, great
of
information.
tidbits.
But the one thing I didn't like, and this is just Mary Kay's opinion, is that they said they're going to sign. They're probably not going to sign Ethan Pocic because he's going to be too expensive.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. I know part of it is they believe in Nick Harris.
The second part of it
it
was they believe that Nick Harris is a starting
and that's fine.
center.
But I don't want to hear about a single player being too expensive.
And you know what?
Nobody.
Here's the other thing, because you're right. But if Harris isn't as good as Pocic,
right,
then we got a problem.
Yes,
we've got a problem.
For me, when you go get these free agents, and I just want to be transparent with everybody out there. 2 of these guys could be no good. One of them could be hurt the rest of the year. Another guy could come in and
you never know.
It happens.
This is where we're at, though. And so sometimes you're going to have to be okay with being uncomfortable or have a question mark on what's the return on investment on these one-year deals. However, you got to do it. You behind the 8 ball. You can't go into the season.
You got to go LA Rams mode. I really believe you do. And really, the biggest piece of what the Rams did was the quarterback piece.
That's right.
And now the Browns have done it at a very similar cost, more dollars long term.
Right.
But you're in this.
No.
And I like the way you put it.
Yeah.
You're in the 10-foot deep end,
You're
pal.
already in.
You better sink or swim. And one way or another,
right,
you're all in.
And once they traded for Stafford, what did they do? They didn't back off.
No,
they got Odell.
Added all the other pieces.
They traded for
needed.
Von Miller. They
Von
did
Miller
whatever
was the
they
huge
had
piece.
to do.
Yep.
And they're going to pay for it. I get it down the line. And there's no guarantee that the Browns are going to win a Super Bowl. But yeah, it's worth it.
Every fan in this city, we were going to talk last week, which I thought was absurd. We were saying, which would you rather have? The Browns win the Super Bowl.
Right.
But don't go for 50 years. I think
suck
this was
the rest
it.
of the time,
and
basically.
suck the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And the other one was they make the playoffs 40 out of the 50 years but never win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, we've already lived one of those. But we didn't get the Super Bowl.
Right.
We've
That's
lived
no good.
one of those.
Listen, I'm telling you, Jay, I've had a ball watching the Bengals the last 2 years.
I bet you have.
But if they don't win the Super Bowl, it's all worth nothing. You've got to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The Browns, I don't care about getting the playoffs. When you haven't gone in a while, it's exciting to make the playoffs.
It was nice.
And it was
couple
fun
years
when they
ago.
did.
Yeah.
And you could deal with that for a couple of years. But eventually, no matter how bad your team was, no matter how long they were bad for, if you consistently make the playoffs, you've got to break through and win a championship.
Got to win.
Or you're left unsatisfied.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I got 3 things real quick. Derek Carr tweeted out, happy to be a Saint.
So it's done.
Okay.
It's done.
Now we can report it.
Yeah.
We did ask the internet real quick, and whenever we ask the internet a question, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. We asked them, given the choice of just Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham, who would you want to see the Browns bring in? Significantly aligned with us. It's Fletcher Cox.
That's
it's
a
not
no-brainer.
close. Real quick for you guys before we bring Dequell in, though. What percentage chance would you say on the reality scale is there of the Browns signing all 4 of Bates, Cox,
5%.
Graham, and Eric Kendricks?
There's 31 other teams.
What about 3, though?
3 of the 4.
Well, they're not going to sign Cox
15%.
and Graham. That's not realistic. They're not going to get
even if they were to sign 3, well, they might. I mean, if Jim Schwartz knows their value as a tandem,
sure,
he might. I mean,
but there's other guys. Like, we're naming some names, but there's other. It's not like those are the only guys out there.
No, these are the names that kind of line up.
Yes.
Cox and Graham with the connection to Schwartz tells me that where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there's a good chance they'll get one of those 2.
No doubt.
But we also have to remember there's 31 other teams.
Of course.
And they have needs too.
And
they have money.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say. We can sit here in our dream world and say, yeah, give us Kendricks, Cox, Graham, Bates, and Cooks.
Right.
Like, okay, if we get those guys, yeah, we're an instant contender.
Yeah.
But
by the way,
it's going to be difficult to do
the
that.
more I think about it, unless there's a name that comes out of nowhere,
right,
like a great receiver that ends up getting traded that we're not expecting. At the moment, it looks like none of the top 10, 15 receivers are changing teams right now.
Well, Cooks.
I don't think he's top 10 or 15 receivers.
Yeah,
I think
you're right.
He's a little below that.
Yeah, he's probably top 25.
Yeah, top 25, definitely. But so you'd have 2 top 25 guys, which is good. You'd love to have a top 10.
You can win with 2.
You can win with 2 top 25 guys, especially when you have an elite back, a pretty good tight end. But I think Cooks is the best guy they can get. And I went back and looked at his numbers, and in terms of yards per game, because he missed a couple of games, he only played with Deshaun Watson for 1 year. but it was the most yards per game he had in his career was the year with Deshaun Watson. Now, he missed a couple of games, so his total numbers
yards per game
weren't as high.
Yeah.
And outside of last year, he had never missed more than, I think, 2 or 3 games in a season. Last year, they were having an issue there. He was unhappy. I think he's a great fit, and I wouldn't stop there. I want to add another. Give me one of these free agent wide receivers, one of these guys who's like a lottery ticket. There's potential.
I've got a name for you.
Yeah.
And don't scoff me right out of the room like I know you're both going to do. Because I would have scoffed me out of the room a week ago.
Now, wait, before you say it, it's in addition to a guy like Cooks, you're
yes.
saying? Okay.
Yes.
Fine.
Before you say
it's
Jay,
a total flyer.
Flyer? Okay.
It's a no. There's no risk involved in this at all.
Man,
Jay,
I'm
before you
bringing
say
Josh Gordon to camp.
let's go.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a problem
Let's
with that.
go. Let's go.
well, I was gonna say let's bring Dequell in and see what his reaction to that was.
yeah.
I'm bringing Josh
Why,
Gordon
because
to
he's
camp.
killing it in the XFL against minor leaguers? I have no
Killing
problem
it.
bringing him
Yes,
to camp.
he's killing it. And you know what? I know the Chiefs had him in camp,
Right.
and he didn't make that squad, which blew me
Not
away.
a good sign.
I thought that if anybody can resurrect him, it's Andy Reid.
Right.
So has he lost a step? I don't know. He put up huge numbers again over the
Yeah.
weekend, found the end zone a couple of times. Definitely not as fast as he was because I watched the
no.
highlights.
Oh, no. He's
I mean,
not,
I doubt he could play in the NFL anymore, but
I doubt
there
it
is
too.
no harm in
but
bringing
you know
him to
what?
camp.
I'm inviting him to camp.
I got it. Dequell, what
Well,
do
you
think
want
of
to take
that?
a flyer on him? Why not?
Yeah, I'll take a shot.
All right.
Why not? He still has the passion to play. He, like you said, I've been watching it. Everyone's been watching
He's
him.
31.
He's 31. What's the harm? He can push the other guys to say, you know what? If he can still do it at a high level, how about this? The reward outweighs the risk at this point. He'll be
No, right. There's no risk if he's banned in the locker room, whatever. You cut his ass. If he can't play anymore, you cut him. I mean, he's not getting any guaranteed money.
No, but at least
right. But I kick the tires with it. I definitely do.
Yep, I agree with that.
I'm
100%.
fine with that as a flyer, but Dequell, we were talking about this. The Browns they jumped into the deep part of the pool with Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to go crazy.
Yep.
I think they got to not recklessly, but they've got to address all these needs. They can't mess around. They got to spend whatever they have to, trades, draft picks, whatever it takes to get better with some veterans. We were suggesting either Fletcher Cox or Brandon Graham, Eric Kendricks at linebacker, and then we talked about Jesse Bates. What do you think about the Browns going all in?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, listen, in my personal opinion, if the front office feels the sense of urgency this year to get it done, because the things you just laid out, Bull, that was a huge investment bringing Deshaun Watson in. That was not just to get to the playoffs or just borderline, fall into the playoffs. You made a move that gave me the impression, I'm sure all the guys on the best for receivers, more receivers, pass catchers, and definitely beefing up that defense. And the guys you mentioned, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, I'll take either one of those guys because guess what? Either one of those guys brings a level of professionalism. There's a proven veteran that God knows we need on that defensive line standpoint. That defense alone to couple with and extend the message of a Jim Schwartz that's going to command the room as we hope he would. But I kick the tires. You have to land one of these guys. And one guy, another linebacker you guys hadn't brought up was Levante David. Either Levante David and Hendricks, you have to grab one of these guys. That, in my opinion, they're one of the top free agents that are available, as opposed to trying to find a guy in the draft right now because the sense of urgency is prevalent. They got to win now, or by this time next year, a lot of guys, a lot of people will be out of jobs in that front to make this art, marginally better.
Browns, according to Mary Kay Cabot's notes, she said there's going to be an effort to re-sign Taki and Anthony Walker. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like Anthony Walker. Taki he proved obviously he got injured towards the end, but he played well. Those are guys that you can plug in. You can plug in and play if you have to go down this route of musical chairs at the linebacker position. But I think you bring Anthony Walker back. I'm not sure what his contract situation is at this point, but he's a guy that you invested. Obviously, he was good for the locker room, and when you lost him, you saw things kind of fall apart. Now, is he the sole answer? No, but he's definitely a player that adds value, that adds depth to that room. But I definitely, either one of those guys, I think if you can get it done, you get it done. But you also have to make a splash in Levante David or
Dequell, I'm glad you said that. See, shout out to the big homie Anthony Walker, man. I told him, I said, listen, man, he came back off injury. I said, but that can't be the only move. Anthony Walker, I like him, but we still need to upgrade that position. Now, I don't think I called him Captain Planet.
No, didn't you call him Jag?
Just
a guy?
He's a Jag. But then I said, he can't be Captain Planet. You can't be saying, I'm going to wish somebody on the ground. You got to make plays, dog. So at the end of the day, I need some more on top of that. I like Levante David. I like Kendricks. I don't know what Bobby Wagner wants. I like him too. At the end of the day, they need 2 or 3. And I wanted to drill down on this. See, earlier in the year, you was not too high on JOK. Now, when you said they might need to go ahead and release this man, was that hyperbole? Or you felt like... Go ahead.
No, it's for what I watched on the field from year 1 to year 2, there needs to be... I just saw day one, linebacker 101, mistakes happening and reoccurring at a high clip. And if you were to take away the physical attributes of this young man, he wouldn't have a job. But because he has that physical prowess and it's in his body to get it done, I don't know what was going on, whether he couldn't see, whether he needed an eye test, I don't know what was going on. And I'm sure the linebacker coach, if he had hair, he didn't have any hair towards the end of the season coaching him. But, at times he would play better, but it wasn't enough for this defense for him to be a fixture on. Anthony Walker, you put on the tape, when he did play, you go back to previous years, he did certain things right. And that's as simple as reading your triangle, we like to call it, from a linebacker position, and expanding your vision. His vision, his eyes were bad. I think if he doesn't show improvement, I think you have to kick the tires on. You can't afford to hold on to a high draft pick like this unless you can get some trade bait for him. But he's one of those guys, if he doesn't play well right away, he doesn't show flashes, I think you have to move on, and I'm going to stick to it. Because I've seen guys with lesser talent be able to play the position and be effective. Whether or not they weren't a difference maker, but they were effective. And when you plug them in, they're going to do things right. They're going to read their keys. They're going to know where to go. Just how to play the position. I didn't think he relied too much on his raw ability, and that's something that as a guy coming from college, you think that would be corrected when he was in year 2. I just saw
safety, Dequell?
I mean, safety requires a lot more, communicating, a lot more. I don't know. He was on the wrong side of the formation with his body frame. I don't think that necessarily bodes well for him. I think he has to be an interior guy. He can't be on one end or the other. But I understood why they made the decision during the year, because you take part of the menu off his plate when you put one guy on one side of the field. But could he play safety? He's fast enough to play the position.
Yeah,
I can tell you that.
He has the athleticism. His frame for linebacker, he just doesn't. I know the Browns wanted to get more athletic at that position, particularly because Lamar Jackson is in the conference, and you need that kind of spy at linebacker that can run with these guys. But I think he's too small, in my view. He's too small to be an impactful linebacker. And I don't think the instincts are there. To your point, the instincts are just natural, and it just doesn't seem like that he has that piece of it.
Yeah, and I try to think about, he is a kid from Ghana, and watching football. So from my experience with playing with guys that didn't necessarily have football in their backyard, it takes them a little bit more time, but in the NFL, there is no time. It's the not for long league. And if you don't get it done, you don't have a job. So, and playing for the Browns, that's one position where it's so, you're just looking for one guy to take it over, to take the bull by the reins and say, you know what, this is my team. I'm going to be the fixture at linebacker, and let's build from that. But he has a golden opportunity, and if he doesn't take advantage of it, unfortunately, he'll be moving either position or area codes here.
Dequell, the only one taking me by the reins is my wife, so let's keep that straight right now. But hey, I know you were at the combine there. What's going on? Are you working with the Browns? Are you doing some stuff? Because are you now an inside source for the Browns for us?
Yeah.
Or what?
Well, so that's a good question, boy. I have to be careful what I say.
Yeah.
Will materialize here pretty soon. As far as the conversations we've had, it'll be more sort of player development and working with players individually, assessing them and kind of using the tools that I developed when I played the game and help in any capacity. So right now we're just trying to figure that out. But to be at the combine, man, was a very unique experience to see it from the coaches and front office standpoint. Yeah. It was something as simple as I played in Indy for 3 years, and guys, I've never walked around the stadium. So I showed up early, just walked around the stadium to check it out, and just meeting different guys who I either played with that are now in front offices around the league. It was very, very helpful to kind of, see what they thought of the position, what they thought about, being in the league, and just hearing their point of view from a front office standpoint. But I'll tell you what, those guys, man, to watch some of these guys, the guy from the D lineman from Northwestern run a 4.4 at 280. See feel that a guy can fast and that heavy. But the Browns, listen, I had a great visit with Stefanski. I talked to anyone that would give me the second just to kind of get familiar with them, and they can get familiar with me. So right now it's still in preliminary phase, and I'm sure I'll be out there once again and around OTAs and minicamp, more of a rigid schedule. And from that moment, I'll have a better idea of what that role would look like if they would allow me to be there.
Hey, DQ, would you mind closing out of your vMix link and logging back in? You're lagging for a sec, so I'm going to do a promo read. We'll kick you out and come right back in, all right?
Okay, all right.
All right, while Dequell's doing that, I'm going to tell you what Dequell ate for breakfast this morning. Built Bars.
Knew it.
Looking big. He brought them to Indy, shared them at the Combine. Dequell is built by Built Bar, just like we all are at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. If you use promo code LOCKEDON15, you get 15% off at Built.com, excuse me. The promo code, the URL, too similar, but you still get 15% off at Locked On.
Jay,
you get anything out of that?
Let me tell you this, Jay. I did watch the Combine. I watched a lot of it. And I don't know what made me think about your son, but he was just talking about the evolution of athletes. And, this is, you start looking at the curve. Guys are getting more and more athletic to
bigger,
a point.
faster, stronger.
Yeah.
These guys are 200. When I came out, you ran a 4.8. You was moving. These guys are running 4.4 consistently.
You saw with the big lineman from Ohio State.
Yeah.
He ran like a 5.2 or something.
These are offensive tackles.
But when you look at how big he is and how strong he is,
amazing.
So you say you run a 5 flat 40. Let me just explain something to you. People always say what they would do to athletes. Do you know that a regular offensive lineman is tracking down a run-of-the-mill person on the street?
Yeah.
Facts.
You can't even run away from them.
No way.
They don't know that. They don't know how fast these dudes is, man. They tracking you down, bro. That's some scary stuff.
I've always said the most awe-inspired thing I've done in all of my career of covering sports is to cover an NFL game from the sidelines. There is absolutely no show of athleticism on the planet that compares.
I think a physical sport. I remember sitting ringside for a boxing match once.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my god,
yeah, how hard they actually hit.
I watched a couple of tomato can heavyweights, bottom of the barrel guys, and I was like, oh my god, every punch looked like a sledgehammer hitting the guy in the face.
I've been at title fights, middleweight fights, middleweights, and these guys, it's what every blow sounded like. Even a blow that at home you're like, that didn't do any damage.
Yeah.
Even like a 6-inch body shot.
Yeah.
It sounds like a baseball bat to the side.
It's crazy.
Of a side of beef.
It's crazy.
And
it really
you're
is.
just sitting there. So that is really eye-opening.
Yeah.
But to me, on a football field, when you're watching, TV doesn't even come close to giving justice to the speed and the size, and more importantly, Dequell, I know you can answer this. the actual violence of these collisions, every single collision where a ball carrier is tackled in the open field, it sounds like a car crash.
Yeah, it's painful to watch nowadays. I have to constantly remind myself, I did this all my life.
No kidding.
Like I ran into human beings fast as I could all my life. It's something that I'm so mentally, I'm not in that space. But guys, I want to go back to a point I made when Will asked me about the combine. I saw a drill that was taking place, and I don't know if they showed it on the live broadcast, but to me, it was a waste of damn time. They were trying to measure flexibility, where a guy laid on his butt and he had to flip his legs over his head, and there was a guy to move the feet out and in, and I'm like, is this an actual drill? This is like, what do we get? What information are we recording from this?
Well,
and
is agility important, though?
You sure that wasn't a porn movie tryout?
Yeah.
I was like, what? You got these 300-pound defensive linemen putting their legs over their head. Lord, I would lose my breath trying to do that. And it was like, oh, we're checking their hips and range of motion. I'm like, get out of here. That is not.
You know what though? But I the reason I think there's value in that, Dequell, and I could be wrong. I remember one of the things that my son used to work on more than anything else, aside from speed and strength, was agility, was flexibility. Because here's the way he explained it. He was constantly having, late high school, early college, constantly having motor injuries. And by that, I mean quads, your flexors.
My hip flexors always hurt.
Hip flexors are the big one, particularly for long jumpers, because their range of motion in flight with their legs is over 180 degrees. So he learned the value in his first 2 years at Rutgers in strength and agility, because here's what they told him flat out, and this is why I think it's so important at these combines. They told him, if we can get you to a certain flexibility level, we can eliminate the idea that you will tear hamstrings. We can eliminate the idea that you will pull your glutes, even your core muscles, because they said those injuries occur, as you know, when you've overstretched, when you've overflexed. So what they do is they find your range, and if it's here, they build it to this, knowing that you're never going to exceed this to get injured. And it was amazing how it worked for him.
No, I'm not going to. You make a great point, but I'm not buying it. What they were doing, I can't.
He's like a
showcase your ability to play football. We can do that some other time.
I think they're trying to figure out your likelihood of suffering an injury.
Dequell's not buying it, Jay.
No,
I'm not buying it.
Speaking of drills, because we were talking about this Friday, Joe Thomas last week said that he thinks the bench press is not really useful. He says the guys that do the bench press, that has nothing to do with being an offensive lineman or period. No. And it's useless.
Yeah,
he thinks like a deadlift would probably be more meaningful. I think he said a deadlift. I don't remember exactly what he said.
I mean, listen, before you said that last bit about a different, pull or push, then the bench press, I played with a lot of guys who were, bench strong but couldn't get off a block to save their life. It's all about technique. But I do think there's a level of that's a hard one to sell for me to get rid of, because I enjoy watching it, to be honest with you. Some of the DBs are the strongest pound for pound human beings on the face of this planet. That are 200 pounds that can push 500-600 pounds pound for pound. All the guys DBs I played with, they've always been just on another level in terms of just brute strength.
Don't tell Tyvis that.
Yeah.
Oh, Tyvis is the exception. He probably wasn't. He didn't fit that bill. He could barely do 10 push-ups. I'm not buying that.
Did you guys hear about the USC lineman who had a clean tear of his ACL?
Yeah.
And came back after that.
The next morning.
Yeah. And repped 38, 245.
The most of any offensive lineman.
The most reps on the bench.
God. By the way,
you know what that measured to me?
Heart. Yeah, no doubt.
I want that.
Here's the thing, though, Dequell, that I think. I think people get suckered every year. It's like I get it. The measurables are important. You want a guy to be fast and strong and all these things. But how many times do we see it where a guy showed you nothing on the football field for 3-4 years in college, and then he kills it at the combine, and we're like, well, this guy's moving up the draft board. Well, nothing he did on the football. I'm not moving a guy up on the draft board because he runs fast. There's a lot of guys who run fast that aren't good at football. Just because you could run really fast doesn't make you a great football player.
Anthony Schwartz.
And John Ross, who the Bengals drafted in the top 10.
Yeah.
I think we get so enamored with these numbers and so excited by them. And it's not just us. The teams do it too, and they make bad picks because of it often.
I mean, you should have seen. I had a privilege to sit in the box and go visit with other former coaches of mine, and everyone seemed to have a stopwatch. Anytime the 40 was up, everyone was enamored with it, and they recorded their own times, and they're competing with each other, and it's amazing how close they were to the actual electronic, deal they have at the 40. But you're right. I mean, it's something for the fans. It's something to watch. It's a measuring stick to see how athletic you are. But you're right. At the end of the day, do you make plays? Or are you showing up on the field, or are you not? And it's so hard to separate the two. Listen, if you had a guy on the fringe level, if he went out and ran a really great time, benched a lot, and jumped through the roof, yeah, he may move up a touch, but it's so hard to separate the two. Listen, I was just enamored at how many guys were so much faster than me that outweighed me by 100 pounds there, man. It was unreal, man.
They are faster and stronger.
In today's day and age, we hear all the weird questions come out because Twitter's around, social media's around. It's a thing. When you were going through the combine process and doing interviews with teams, did you ever get asked to do something ridiculous or weird? Or what was the weirdest question as you were going through that process? It was
a running back's, a linebacker's coach for Cincinnati years ago. I can't remember his name, but I remember out of all the visits I've had with teams during that time, he gave me his card on the way out. He was like, I expect you to call me once every week until the draft. And so I called my agent. I'm like, hey, this guy wants me to call him every week until the draft. He's like, no, we're not doing that. Screw this guy. He's just, I'm like, well, listen, if I'll make the call, if I can get drafted and play in this league, I'll do it. But it was just so strange that, I would see the guy, years later, and it was so awkward, man. I was like, why would you even do that? If you
he was testing you. He was absolutely testing you. Dequell, you know this as well as anybody. What this whole offseason period is about, the draft, there's really three things that they're measuring. They're looking at your tape. That hay is in the barn. Then they're going to poke, prod, and measure and test your ability, strength, speed, all of that. And then the other one is character, which under character I would also include intelligence, because I know that the old intelligence test is out. I don't think they even give that anymore.
The Wonderlic you're talking about?
Yeah, the Wonderlic is dead, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah,
I'm
not sure.
I'm pretty sure that teams just pretty much stopped using it. But they're still asking questions and they're testing your character and all of that. If you were a GM or if you were a scout, a coach, whatever, what formula would you have? You've got 100 parts to the pie.
Oof.
What part are you giving to play on the field? What part are you giving to performance at the combine? And what part are you giving to character, intelligence, etc.?
Probably the combine, the measurable, and the physical ability, I would say that would be probably 20% of it. And everything.
That's exactly what I would weigh it.
Yeah, and everything else will kind of be tied together. The character and what you do on the field; those have to mirror each other.
Yeah.
But I'd say this, man. It's no special sauce to it. It's like I always ask myself this question: how do you measure what's between someone's ears? In terms of grit. And I think that it goes to talking to how they treat people. Go to the people that they least they had the least amount of encounters with, and see what their perspective is of this person, just to see just how good of a person they are. And I mean, it's such a hard equation to try to figure out and master, because you can have all the due diligence in the world, and if a guy tucks his tail the minute things get hard, what do you have here? You wasted your time. But it's very interesting, man. It's very, very, very interesting, and it's a tough equation to try to figure out. But that's not an easy question to answer right now. That is a great question.
I'd like to ask all 32 GMs.
I would love to have some time and be in the room, hopefully with the Browns one day, and see if I can be a part of that equation and help just to understand the psyche of a player and help whoever has to make that decision down the road. It actually got me thinking about, I actually told a story to some of the guys in the suite about some of the things that some of those old instincts were coming back, being in that building during that time, seeing all these guys run 40s and do all these different things. I remember cheating for the vertical jump. So when I was going through the combine, I think I went like the third day. And so in my room, my agent always told me, watch the combine. I was like, why would I need to watch the combine? He was like, well, you don't know whether you're going to run the 40 first or bench press first. It's all scattered. So as I'm watching the combine, I notice, when they take your measurements for the vertical, you have to extend your arms above your head. They take your measurement. And then from that, they measure the difference of you slapping a little deal up top. Right. But I realized they allow guys to wear gloves. So what I thought about, I was like, you know what? I took tissue and I stuck tissue in every one of my fingers in my glove. So, because I was doing the vertical jump, I think third or fourth or something like that. And so I had jumped all year long. I jumped no more than like 34 inches.
Right.
With the tissue in my glove, I jumped like a 37 and a half. It was amazing. Amazing. And so I told my buddy was there, my team, I was like, hey, man, use your glove. And after a while, they shut it off. But I'd already recorded my 37 and a half vert. And that was one of my claim to fames of
Dequell, you out there with them big foam fingers? You
got the number one finger. Yeah, the number one. This is the glove I play with, so I'd like to do the vertical with this.
Hey, I was trying to get paid, G.
Yeah, that's right. I don't blame you.
Hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Well, I can't remember, because you weren't on with us last week, I can't remember exactly the timeline if we've had you on since Ray Ventrone got the job.
No.
Yeah, he was.
It was right after.
Yeah.
Okay, you were on right after. Because we had Phil Dawson on last week for the first time. And Phil was excited to talk about his relationship with you and with Ventrone.
Yeah.
Obviously, he was going crazy.
Yeah, man. I missed that episode, man. I haven't talked to him in a while. Like I said, I have his framed jersey. I have his cleats. I was a big fan of Phil, man. He's coaching high school now. Oh, yeah. That's good. That's good. He needs to come back to Cleveland. They need to put him on retainer, have him teach our kicker how to adjust to his wins.
We asked him about
Phil
that.
said the last thing Cade York wants is an old bald guy telling him what to do.
It's
funny.
funny.
Exact words. So
it's funny. I feel like I learned more, and I've talked to Phil Dawson once before, but I felt like I learned more in the 20 minutes we had Phil Dawson about special teams than I've learned in the rest of my life combined. What a savant when it comes to that stuff.
So Phil, I had to put Phil, Cribbs and Bubba. So I had a chance to visit with Bubba while I was at the combine, and I was like, dude, because he had one of the top, return units in the league with Indy. And it was just like, man, I don't see guys, the way Cribbs would set up a kickoff return to help the frontline guys block. I was like, I don't see that anywhere. And it's just like, he has a PhD in special teams and how to, get your job. So he's going to make a huge impression on this unit. And you should see him. The guy's in better shape than half the guys in the locker room themselves. So it's easy for him to get the players' attention.
Dequell, there's no salary cap on coaches. So this is what I don't understand. And Jason Lloyd has referred to this a number of times. Because kicking is really, in most cases, most of your games are decided by kicks. I mean, whether we like it or not, we see a vast majority of games come down to kicks. So we know how important they are. Jason tells us that only one team has a kicking specialist as a coach. So I don't mean the special teams coach. They have a kicking specialist. Well, which team has the best kicker in the league?
Yeah.
It's Justin Tucker by a mile.
Well, Tucker, yes.
So what I don't understand is, as long as our owner is going to be in the business of spending $875 million to become part owner of an NBA team 1,000 miles away, why don't we drop a little bread and hire Josh Cribbs and drop a little bread and hire Phil Dawson to help Ventrone and make this dedication? We aren't just going to be number one in the league on special teams. We're going to be number one by a mile. And that's a third of the game.
Yeah.
So
Jay, I would
we're going to do everything we need. And we're going to hire Dequell Jackson to be a linebacker consultant.
Yeah, I would do it at every position that obviously you have trust with from the guys who have been in the building. I'll tell you what, there's other teams doing that. There's other teams that, like Philly. There's no mistake Philly was in the Super Bowl. That's not a coincidence. They actually have things in place where they create sort of like a college atmosphere of Brett Selleck and Darren Sproles, they hire them to come in multiple times a week just to be around the guys. And obviously there's deliverables they have to meet, but that's part of it, right? It's like, wouldn't you want to go to a place where you know you can touch Ray Lewis and he's going to be in the building, you can soak up some knowledge from him? I think you have to get away from this old mentality, one guy can do it all. Well, you know what? One guy needs some help to coach all these guys up, because your message may not be the message that gets across to guys. I do it all the time. Guys would former coaches, I'm like, hey, can you talk to this guy? I can't get through to him. So, that was the whole reason behind me reaching out to Andrew Berry and staff and say, you know what? I've been doing this since I retired. Let me see if this could work in your building. And hopefully it does. And I'm excited for it. And I'll let you guys know how it works out.
We're excited for you too.
But we're not come on the show. You just can't leave.
Are you still going to come on the show if you're working with the Browns?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
I see.
Hey, I like how you didn't play no games with that.
Yeah.
You like, if they're going to bring me in on this Checkonomics game, we're going to have to taper some of this off.
Oh, man. Well, Dequell, did you get a chance to talk with Jim Schwartz this week at the Combine as well?
I didn't. He was the one guy I missed. I had a chance to sit down with Stefanski during the Combine, and we just talk ball and kind of philosophy. And he asked me a question that no one's ever asked me. He asked me how many defensive coordinators had I played for. And guys, I could not think of it was been so many, because I think I've had like 8 head coaches. So, you times that by probably 2. I mean, and I realized, I was like, you know what? In my entire 11 careers, I've only played in the system 2 years or more twice. And that was everything else has been every year I had to learn a new defensive scheme. So, I think I'm well equipped to be in an NFL locker room and be a coach and whatever else they would have in store for me. So I definitely have the credentials for it.
Hey, listen, man. I know you're going to be up to your ears in some of that good quality NFL official gear. You going to be in here. Dequell, do not be out here with no gloves on in the middle of winter. You a regular civilian. Dequell got the gloves on. He got a black spat on his shoes. Boy,
man. Listen, I'm looking forward to it. And, Brad, the equipment guy, that's one guy you have to keep in touch with, because they got all the great gear, all of it. So, I got you, G. You're a gear guy, so I got you, man. You hit me up. I got you.
Don't forget about us, too.
I'm still waiting on my bourbon, dude. Have you sent my bourbon?
It's been sent. It's in the mail. I promise you. It is.
Did you send the bottle that I gave you?
I did, yes.
Okay,
I
good.
did.
By the way,
and I found out mailing alcohol, not easy.
No, it's very difficult.
That's why Jay just gave it to me and said, hey, you figure it out. I had no idea what I was getting into.
By the way, have you guys noticed that Mike's voice has been jacked up for about a week? He took an elbow to the throat.
I got elbowed in the throat last Tuesday playing basketball. It still hurts.
Come on, tell us the truth, man. What happened?
I did. This guy named Nate, who you know what? I'm going to see him tonight. We're playing tonight, actually, so I'm not going to say.
Are you going back?
Get some payback?
No. I mean, I hit the game when it shot that game, but I'm not
there we go.
That's payback.
I'm not going to cross-check him back.
That's
or I hit puberty at 29, one of the two.
Mike, if I were you, I'd set the biggest pick and knock him on his ass.
We'll see.
Is he bigger than you?
I'll come with you. I'll set the pick for you.
How big is he?
He's a normal-sized guy. He's not that big.
Bigger than you, then.
But bigger than you. Right.
Most people are, yeah.
All right, Dequell, thanks for your time, brother. Enjoy your week.
Hey, always good to talk to you guys.
Enjoy your week.
See you, buddy.
Take care.
Appreciate
so
it, DQ.
I'm rooting for him to find whatever, if that's what he wants to do. I think he would be great.
I know. I'd hate to
in
lose
that
him
role,
as a guest.
but I don't want to
certainly.
lose him, man. He's been
By
so
the way,
good for us.
One sec. Well, we don't want to lose the call as a
go
guest,
ahead.
but we also don't want to forget to remind everybody that the 12 o'clock hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is sponsored by Collie Racing. Collie Racing, your Northeast Ohio sports team.
Before we switch gears, guys, one thing, and because Dequell may be working for the Browns, I didn't want to put him in a tough spot by asking this question.
Right.
But the fact that he was spending the whole week with a lot of Browns personnel, and the first thing he said to us was, after we asked him about the free agency, is, I don't remember the exact words, but he basically said, I expect the Browns to have a sense of urgency. I think that's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
So he's not pulling that out of his ass.
No. He's probably taken that from some of the conversations that he had.
So that's got to make you feel good.
Yeah, I agree. And look, he's not selling anything we don't know. We know that this is on an urgent scale, There are red flags and sirens going off all over in that building.
I like it. I love it.
Right, but it's one thing to say, well, they should feel that way. It's another thing for a guy who spent the week talking with a lot of the powers that be of the Browns to say, yeah, they're feeling that.
And they should,
yes.
I love their knees shaking right now. That's the knee-jerk reaction. Keep doing that.
Still got to be smart with what decisions they make.
Yeah, you said you can't be reckless. I think was the word you used, and that's absolutely right.
Right.
The money that you spend still has to be wisely spent.
Right. Spend it on the right guys.
You can't do it recklessly.
Spend a lot, but spend it on the right guys.
And you know what? No longer do they have an excuse that, we're saving money under the cap or we're going to pick our poison for this year.
No, none of that.
That ship sailed when you bought part of the Milwaukee Bucks.
That's right.
This is your baby.
So I think that ship sailed when they traded for Deshaun Watson. It took it another level when they spent money on the Bucks.
I thought that ship sailed when they gentlemanly punted last year.
Yeah, right.
On top of all the two things that y'all just said, now everybody, I love the urgency. You know why? There is nothing like having the fear of failure and the fear of you not keeping your job. You can see it in work. When the boss is at work, and you all see it. I used to work in corporate America. They said, the guys from corporate are coming. Corporate's coming. They told my boss, clean your desk up. You got way too many snacks on your desk, G. Bush. Corporate's coming through. They sweep the floors. You can't go to the lunch or the cafeteria break no more. The small talk by the water cooler don't be happening no more.
Right.
And everybody button up that.
Yeah.
And guess what?
Still small talk by the water cooler. Is that still something that's happening?
Yeah. It is. It happens upstairs in 3 newsroom all the time.
That's the great.
We have a popcorn machine up there, which is a great idea for an office.
It is.
Because, what draws a crowd more than popping popcorn?
Some of us had.
Next thing you know, there's 5 people around there filling their bag of popcorn.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, family. Some of us had regular jobs. Some of us go to these jobs.
Well, I had regular jobs too until I was 25.
Look, till you're 25.
Yeah.
They, upstairs. Well, their upstairs is a regular job, but it's like Anchorman. It's like really, literally Anchorman.
Yeah,
I worked for 2 years at an oil company before I went back to college. I was like a gopher. I just ran all these odds and ends.
Wow, interesting.
When I was like 23 to 25 years old. And the boss was rarely there. Sometimes when he was there, he'd sit up. He was an old man, Mr. Raffi. He would sit up in the office. And every once in a while, he'd come down and everybody would get a little, you'd get a little on your P's and Q's a little more.
Yeah.
When he was there.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you're the owner, you don't have that.
No.
There's one person in the Browns organization over the last decade that's had zero fear of losing their job. The owner.
That's right.
That's it.
So nobody can hold him accountable.
No, we can.
By not spending money, but fans don't do that.
And you know what? Raising our level of expectation.
Yes,
Demanding
absolutely.
more. And that's why I said, for you it was the Deshaun Watson signing. That was nice.
Yeah.
That told me you better be all in. But no, for me it was spending $875 million on another team.
Well, we all got there at a different time, but we're all there.
I'm there.
And so there's no excuses. I've been saying for years that when it comes to the Browns, I don't know why it's only the Browns. Because it's not that way with the Guardians and it's not that way with the Cavs. Fans lower their expectations.
I know we do.
They've done it forever.
And you know what?
To the fact where they made Baker Mayfield a god almost because of one playoff win.
We're in a codependent relationship.
Yes.
And here's what I mean by that. If you're in a relationship with a person that's treating you poorly, the first few times it happens, it's not your fault. You were in the way.
Right.
It happened to you. It was the other person. But after a while, once it's become a pattern and you're continually staying there for the abuse, that's on you.
The Browns fans have Stockholm syndrome, basically.
You're exactly right.
I mean,
that's what we have.
And
you
so
know what?
any
We keep
peak
coming
of
back.
anything, it's like, oh my
So you
God.
know what it is when they sign an Odell Beckham, or they trade for an Odell Beckham, or they go out and they sign Jarvis Landry and they do these things? It's the equivalent of the abusive person in the relationship saying, "Baby, I'm not going to hit you no more.
Here's some flowers.
Mm-hmm. I'm good now. Yeah. I've changed."
Yeah. I'm gonna do right by you.
And so here's what we have to. I tuned out the news conferences.
Oh
5
yeah, the
years
press.
ago. My favorite saying is, "I can't hear your words; they're drowned by your actions." Don't tell me about the labor. Show me the baby.
Yep.
That's what I need.
Yeah.
And that's when all the fans in the area get to that point, to where we all collectively say, you know what? Enough abuse. You've abused us long enough.
Right.
We're not going to take it anymore.
That's right.
We're demanding better.
But that-
and by the way,
Yeah.
This person just spent $875 million on flowers for another mistress.
Right, that's right.
You better not forget about us.
I told him the thing that changed my life forever was the Cincinnati Bengals, right? People always talk about, oh, I don't want to hear about no other teams, but I judge what I'm doing off of what other teams is doing. I just saw the Browns are known as one of the worst ownership groups, right? But yet and still, they've been to how many Super Bowls?
0.
No,
Oh, you're talking about the Bengals.
You said you said the
Four?
Browns.
Four?
Three
Super Bowls.
3.
Yeah.
Now think about this.
Yeah, this year would have been 4. Yeah,
This year, now this is an organization that don't like spending money. They don't have great facilities. Ownership is they really didn't like their quarterback, or excuse me, their head coach. And all of a sudden, you get Burrow and a receiver, no offensive line, and you're in the Super Bowl. And for me,
And I was away from winning.
And it should have won. And so for me, I'm sitting here watching these Bengals in the Super Bowls with the colors that look kind of like mine, with the Paul Brown thing that used to be ours, and I'm sitting there thinking, I've been sold a bill of goods. I've been told that I should be investing 3 to 5 years of my life in making sure the regime has time, and I need an offensive lineman, and I need to get tackles, and I need the quarterback to be in the same system under the same coach, and I need the general manager and the philosophy to be ideology from the top to bottom, and we need all these things in a perfect storm just to even make the playoffs. When I just saw this team and countless others, Jacksonville Jaguars, dumpster fire 1 year, playoff win the next. No, it does not take all that. If you are concentrating and you hit on your draft picks and you spend your money wisely and you make sure you turn over every stone possible, you can win in this league because it's set up for you to do so.
You're right, it is. This league is set up for you to be good every 7 years and for you to be bad every 7 years. And there's no reason for any team to spend 15 to 20 years at the bottom end of the talent cycle.
And the fans have to stop giving the organization a pass. You've done it. It's been happened too much. The other teams in this, the other teams that are better run than the Browns have never been given a pass.
No.
The Guardians never get a pass, ever.
Especially their owner. This town loves to beat up on Dolan.
Yeah, and I'm no apologist for him. I've criticized him plenty, but it's a well-run organization. We don't like everything about it, but it's a well-run organization. Most
will tell you it's top 3 in Major League Baseball.
Yes,
and that's not even a question.
And you know you can't once you get to the playoffs in baseball, you don't have a ton of control. You could bring in all the talent you want. You still may not. The Dodgers had a $250 million payroll. They got knocked out last year early.
And they develop talent. They even when they do have somebody to let go, they bring a dude right behind them that's just as good or better. And you can't even really say nothing about it.
No.
All we asking for the Browns to do is develop one guy. Give me one receiver, a quarterback, and maybe a linebacker that you can develop. That's all we want.
Let's talk.
It's never been easier to go from worst to first in the NFL. It's never been easier. And just a reminder real quick, our 12 o'clock lunch hour is sponsored by Collie Racing. Collie Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team.
Let's do the Cavs now because after a disappointing loss at the Celtics late last week, they bounced back with a nice win against the Pistons. We expected that.
I got to admit, I did not watch a minute of that.
I didn't either. I didn't feel there was a need to.
No,
I did follow it on my phone.
Not watching them play the Pistons.
And if it got dangerously close, I was going to turn it on just so I could let my blood pressure boil.
Right.
But it was what we expected. It was a pushover win. The Celtics last night had a double overtime game against the Knicks. So the thinking now is they're going to come in here tonight and rest their stars.
And by the way, because of that win by the Knicks, which I think is their 10th in a row, Mike?
10th in a row.
Half game?
They're only a game.
Is it a half game?
I thought it was a game. You want to double check the standings for me? Or
it might be a game. It might be.
As of this moment in time, exactly, they're one game back.
One game.
Knicks just a game back.
Yeah. So, it's stunning.
It's a bigger deal for the Cavs to be 4 because the Knicks have been a good road team.
I know. You don't want to see even if you get the 4, you're going to have to see the best road team in the Eastern Conference. I believe their record's number 1 in the Eastern Conference.
Second best in the East behind Boston.
Boston. And do you want to lose to the team that Donovan Mitchell?
No.
It's always had. It's always
that would be bad.
Yeah.
Like they come in there and smoke you.
By the way, if they lose to the Knicks in the playoffs, JB's gone to me. He's gone.
I said that last week.
He's gone. You can't lose to the Knicks. The Cavs are a much more talented team.
Yeah. I agree.
If they lose, I'm going to point to the coaching. Unless there's a catastrophic injury.
Well, I was hoping that we would see the full Celtics lineup tonight because I wanted to see what changes JB made.
Right.
Now, that's moot.
I mean, I guess, we don't know for sure they're going to sit those guys, but
We
double
don't.
overtime and guys getting banged up.
Yeah,
I
the
can't
assumption
imagine.
is that they're going to rest at least some of their stars. They may rest 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
So all of our discussion points kind of flew out the window because I wanted to ask you guys what adjustments you were specifically looking for JB to make. I don't really think we're going to get much out of that. And the assumption here also is that they're going to kind of I don't think it'll be an easy win, even if the Celtics do rest their stars. I just think that the Celtics have good role players. They have a good bench. They'll make it a fight, but I think if the Cavs lose this, like they did to Golden State when Golden State sat the Big Four,
right. That was crazy.
that would be
it's embarrassing.
horrific look.
But
for
if
this team.
Tatum, Brown, and Smart don't play, then it's a meaningless game. I mean, you don't
Unless
if
they lose.
Right?
If
If
they
they
lose, I
don't,
think
if
a
they
lot of
win, I'm
meaning
not going to look. I don't look anything into it at all.
No, I agree. We asked the question last week on the production lineup. We didn't get to it on the show, but I thought we've got some time now. We might as well get to it. Which role player, and we're going Cavs history, any time in the Cavaliers, and it's got to be a role player. Don't come at me with, I think Kevin Love was not a role player. Kevin Love was a piece. So which role player in the history of the Cavaliers would be the best fit with this roster right now?
You see, to me, a role player is a guy who doesn't start and plays, 15, 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
What order are we going in here, Mike? You got a graphic.
You can start first. Yeah, we got yours. Whenever you're ready.
Mine was Mo Williams.
No, it wasn't.
It's not Mo Williams. He was one of my final 3. Remind me who it was. I can't remember because I had a final 3.
It was a former guest on the show.
Oh, it was Boobie Gibson. Boobie Gibson. Right. I had a final 3 because what I did was I looked for guys who didn't, who were not starters, not stars. And then I looked for who were some of the best 3-point shooters in Cavs history. And it came down to Wesley Person, Boobie Gibson, and Mo Williams. And then I texted my Jason Lloyd and Chris Fedor. I said, I don't think any of these guys are very good defensively. Who would you say is the best of the 3? And
they weren't. None of those guys.
None of those guys couldn't play defense.
Yeah.
But Jason was like, well, at least Boobie tried hard on defense. So that was the tiebreaker for me.
Effort counts for something.
Yeah. So Boobie, in the year I picked, what was the year I picked? I can't remember.
08-09.
So in the 08-09 season, he shot I can't remember the exact percentage now, but his 3-point percentage that year was like absurdly high.
Yeah.
44%.
Yeah, it was 44%. And I was debating between that and I think the 09-10 season, because in the 09-10 season, he put up some big postseason numbers from 3. But this team needs a guy who can be a killer from the 3-point line, and that year, Boobie Gibson was.
All right.
Man,
G. Bush, you're up next.
I thought this was an easy one. I brought it down between J.R. Smith and I didn't go with J.R. I went with Iman Shumpert. I got Iman Shumpert. Now, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take him from in 16-17. He could play 3. He could play guards. He can run off screens. Iman Shumpert is a dude that can hit an open 3. And I don't got to run no plays for Iman Shumpert.
But isn't he just Isaac Okoro?
No.
Yeah, G.
Kind of is.
He kind of is, man.
Iman Shumpert is
Kinda
better. He's a way better scorer than Okoro. And what was his 3-point percentage that year?
Not good. I'm going to tell you, and you're going to be like, ooh, that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
And shout out to Iman Shumpert, hell of a basketball player overall. But let me find his basketball reference here.
What did he shoot for 3?
I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 sec.
And
For his career, G,
Yeah.
33.7%.
Oof. By the way, all 3 of the guys that I had as finalists, Wesley Person, Boobie Gibson, and Mo Williams, all had a better 3-point percentage career-wise than J.R. Smith. J.R. just took a ton of 3s.
He was a volume shooter.
Yeah.
Volume shooter.
Yeah,
Ooh,
he wasn't a shooter.
I was looking at his field goal percentage. It said 41 right here. That's from the field goal. We don't know about that.
See? Are you changing?
And we don't know about that.
Hey, G, we have JR, because that's who I picked when I was supposed to do this.
I was either going to take him or JR. I'm taking JR Smith.
And the one thing with JR, and Bull is right, he was a volume 3-point shooter in the 2015-2016 season. He did shoot 40% from the 3-point arc, which is a very serviceable number for a guy who made 204 threes, which is the team record. He averaged 12.4 points. In that season, while he wasn't the greatest defender, he did have his best defensive season. So
He played very good defense that year.
I think he was the obvious, the
I thought
easy
he was the
answer.
obvious choice. That's why I didn't pick him. I wanted to try somebody else.
Yeah, JR for me was on the fringe of is he a role player or not, and I think on that team he was.
He was on that team.
Yeah.
He could be off.
Yeah.
You went
He
with
could
someone,
be a
Jay,
piece.
who me and Bull actually don't think was a role player.
No, the year that I'm taking him, he was a role player. He didn't start. I want him his rookie season. I think he started maybe 15 or 20 games. You might want to look that up.
I'm on it.
Here's what Hot Rod Williams could do. He played terrific defense, and that's what this team needs. You said last week, we were having a conversation, until this team finds a player that can shut down the elite threes in this league, and that's a very tall task, they're in trouble. And you're right, we are. Because right now, the gap between acceptable and where we are is big.
Yeah, huge.
Hot Rod Williams would come off, and he would give you energy minutes, and he was, even though he didn't start until late that season, and I think then it was because of an injury.
He started every game.
He started every game that year.
His rookie year.
He started 80 games.
Are you sure?
And was the second leading scorer of the team. He's not a role player.
I'm still taking him. Because he wasn't the top three players on that team.
You're right.
Tell me who the top three players were.
Wasn't he their second leading scorer?
No, wait. Tell me who their top three pieces were that year.
According to the Cavs, give me a sec. I gotta pull it up. I gotta dig through the reference.
It would be Doherty, Nance, and Price. Now, I don't know how deep you want to go before you start calling these guys role players.
Right.
Hot Rod was the third leading scorer of the team.
Which I'll take.
He's borderline.
I still think that year he was a role player. I watched every game that year.
Yeah, I think you count him as
was
the
not.
fourth. Yeah.
I'd count him as a
Price
four.
was not the fourth. Price only played 16 minutes a game that year.
I would still say, you said he's the fourth. Name your three.
No, he wasn't.
Well, I just saw the name Mark Price. He was a rookie that season.
Mark Price didn't do anything that year.
But to me, the team was Price, Doherty, Nance.
No. Jay, Price did nothing that year.
He played. I watched
Price
every
came
game
off
that
the
year.
bench.
Price was up.
He averaged 7 points, 3 assists that year, Price.
I just remember him being way better.
Ron Harper averaged 23 points per game that
Harper
year.
was the other one. Yeah, Ron Harper.
Harper and Doherty, and then Hot Rod was third in scoring.
Third, yeah.
Where was Nance? Was Nance on that team?
Nance wasn't on that team.
Didn't come until later.
Yeah.
I'm still.
Listen, it's a long time ago. Everything gets.
It counts, Jay.
Well, no, but I'll
it
tell
counts.
you this. I watched that team. I was in college, and when I was in college, I watched every game that I could that was on TV. He was a role player on that team. And by the way, I would still say J.R. Smith would qualify as a role player on the Cavs team. But I just think that there comes a spot where, in Hot Rod's career, where he wasn't a role player, he was a piece. He was like a building block.
Can I ask a way to phrase this?
Yeah.
As someone who wasn't born in 1986 to watch the Cavs?
Right. He was not a three-point shooter, if that's what you want.
He didn't take a single three that year.
No, he
0
wasn't
threes.
a three-point shooter.
He was a guy who...
He played defense, which we need.
Exactly. So we were running his numbers. He played the second most minutes. He was the third leading scorer, but it was more hustle stuff on the side as opposed to them running sets for him.
It was big hustle stuff. It was big hustle stuff, and a lot of the stuff he didn't show up in the box scores. But I always felt that Hot Rod was the guy that set the energy tone, which every team needs. They need that energizer bunny. When Hot Rod was on the floor, I felt everybody. I don't even know if they kept plus-minus stats back then. I don't think they did.
Now, did they have him play a 3 or 4?
He was a 3. Now, I think when did the plus-minus stat become a thing? It was much later.
By the way, Twitter just apparently turned off the API for everyone who doesn't pay for Twitter Blue, so you're not going to see links or videos or anything
anymore. What is Twitter
Blue?
I don't even know what that is.
It's where you can pay to have a blue check mark.
What an embarrassment.
Why?
I don't know, but I'm just seeing on Twitter everyone's freaking out right now. So
well, good.
You can't see pictures.
Be able to pay to have a blue check mark.
No.
No, not us.
So people, you can't post any links if you're not paying for Twitter Blue?
What?
That's apparently what's going on Twitter.
Oh my
God. Hey, we have a new mic back here. Anthony, you want to test out the new mic?
Oh, that might
Hi
be
guys,
true
can you
though.
hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so it seems to be the free API is gone, and so now our link to the show doesn't work for me as a non-Twitter paying user. So
what is
that's
API?
Be
I don't even know what
interesting obstacle for us in the future.
Essentially, anything you post is a video. It shows it to you in person.
Yeah.
Is not there anymore.
There was no warning about this?
No, they've been talking about it. They've been saying it's been coming for a long time.
Twitter has sucked since Elon Musk.
Well, here's the thing. when he went in, he realized, did you ever buy a car? It was used, and you were told that it was one thing, and then you rode it for a week, and you're like, holy shit, this thing sucks.
Yeah, this is. Yeah.
I got a ping in the motor. The struts are gone in the back. I know I need new brakes now. They weren't squeaking before. They must have oiled them. Well, when he went in and took over and started digging down, he was like, oh boy. I bought 11. I bought something. I was told something
all
that
I know
wasn't true.
is it's been worse since he took over.
Well, here's why. Now he's got to monetize it. Now he has to find a way to, obviously, he didn't buy this because he wanted it.
Right.
He bought it to monetize it. All the experts have been saying this is a trouble purchase because I don't know that it can be monetized to the point of where its payroll was. That's why the first thing he had to do is come down and slash payroll by about 90%. They had so many frivolous people doing nothing that he got rid of all of them. Now he's got another revenue stream.
That's true? How do we know that's
he
true?
came in and he looked at the structure model
that's
of the
what
business.
he claims just because
He just came in and said, whenever
all
a CEO buys something, he said, what do you do?
Jay,
What do you
nobody
do? What do you
cares
do?
about that. What people care about is that Twitter sucks since he took it over. That's all that people care about.
Here's what sucks about it.
The fans don't care about him
It's
making
not going to
money.
be free anymore.
It is what it is.
Right. No, that's what sucks about it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be free
No, that's
anymore.
not what it sucks about it.
Yes,
What
it
sucks
is.
about it is anybody can have a blue check mark. That's bad.
Well, that's dumb. That was stupid from jump. Why? The blue check mark was supposed to delineate from verified public people,
Right.
which I thought was stupid in the first place.
Why?
Because
you have credibility.
Oh, so do you need that blue check mark to have credibility?
No, but
And-
it denotes a potential legitimate source of news.
Oh, trust me, I've seen lots of things tweeted from blue check marks that was wrong. A lot of things.
Of course, but
So-
there has to be some standard.
Here's what we talked about this
You don't
on Channel
agree that
3 a
there
couple
should
of
be
weeks
some
ago.
standard?
Yes. You want to hear my standard?
Yeah.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Everybody's verified. Here's what I mean by that. And this is a bare minimum for the barrier to entry. This is a public space.
Right.
If you went into a theater and yelled fire, we want to know who you are so we can hold you accountable, right?
Right.
The problem with social media and the reason that it's run amok is because there are too many people with the handle Hercules Mike.
Right, sure.
And now there's no accountability, so he can say whatever the hell he
But
wants.
that hasn't changed.
Here would be my suggestion.
Right.
Everybody's verified. And here's what I mean by that. If you want to share the public space,
Right.
we need to know your first name. We need to know your last name.
Agreed.
And we need to know that that's you and you're one of one.
Agreed. I 100% agree
so
with
the
that. But that's
bots-
not happening anyway.
No, I know. My suggestion
Yeah.
is, we talked about this on Channel 3 a couple of weeks ago. My suggestion is where social media went crazy was it became the world's largest bathroom wall. You could go in there and write something defamatory
Right.
and leave, and there's no accountability.
No accountability.
So when you want to go fishing in any state in the United States, you need a driver's license, and then you need a fishing license. And the reason for that is they want to monitor and make sure that you're going to adhere to the rules that that state sets to fishing or hunting or driving or anything.
You have to get a fishing license, but not a gun license.
That's crazy.
Yes, that's absolutely
That's
right.
insane.
That's crazy.
Now,
insane, but go ahead.
let's take it the next step.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You can be a parent. You don't need a license for anything.
No.
So all I'm saying is if you want to share a social public space, there should be a bare minimum requirement to that. And the bare minimum is we need to know who you are.
Yeah.
We need to know that you're one of one and that everything you say comes from you.
Agree, but that's
So
not happening.
that's the blue check mark that we would
Instead,
need.
he has added people. He's confused people by letting anybody become a blue check mark,
Mm-hmm.
and some people think that's a sign of credibility, which not always is the case. But now it's even worse.
Well,
because now anybody can have it, and not to mention he unbanned some people from Twitter, some that probably should have been unbanned, but some that should have stayed banned because they were spreading misinformation or whatever they were doing.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because there's also people on Twitter that damn well should be banned that aren't.
Well, he has anyway. It's not everybody's seeing people's tweets, even if you're following them now. The whole thing is a mess. That's the bottom line.
Well,
and
We could get out of this whenever we want, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's move on.
I think it's been a mess. I think it will continue to be a mess. Again, the bare minimum requirement is very simple. If you want an account, here's the bare minimum. Just like if you want a fishing license.
I hear you.
Show me your driver's license. It's not going to be public anywhere. We're going to see it. We're going to make sure that that's you, and you're getting one account. Period. No
Agreed.
bots. That would kill.
I'm just saying
the biggest problem to Twitter was when he bought it, the percentage of accounts that were fake far exceeded the percentage that weren't.
I hear you.
And here's
all
another
I know
stat,
is it's gotten worse since he
just
took it
to let
over.
everybody know that because we think that Twitter is the world and everybody's saying it. Fewer than 1% of Americans see tweets every day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's fact.
Like, we tend to get lost in everybody thinks that,
It's a
that's
small
not
percentage.
true. It's a very minuscule percentage.
Very small.
And so for us, we can no longer tweet on our Twitter page.
Ian's working on it. Take tag word forward
The
quick.
good news is I'm rooting for Elon Musk to go broke and bankrupt and lose all his money and live in the street.
Just
I hope
take tag word real
Be
quick. and then
careful
we'll
with
move on.
that. His Tesla stock is up over 100% in 3 months.
Yeah, and he'll probably block me on Twitter for saying it.
This is the Twitter
No, he'll just delete
outrages
your account.
outage in the last 24 hours. As you can see, it has spiked in the last 30 minutes. That is what's going on. But a reminder before we move on to Guardians that the 12 o'clock lunch hour is sponsored by Collie Racing.
Yeah.
Collie Racing, your Northeast Ohio sports team. Let's talk a little Guardians, guys.
Yeah, are you want to do Guardians first? Because I thought that question, didn't we do that question last week?
No?
I felt like we did that.
We did. Who would benefit the most from the
I thought we've been talking about this. I know I've given my opinion on it. I thought you had too. Which Guardian do you expect to take the biggest step forward? Which Guardian do you expect to take the biggest step back?
I think we did do that.
I feel like we've done it on and off for a month. But
Most of y'all said Oscar Gonzalez.
Oscar Gonzalez was the guy that I most fear a regression, and Stephen Kwan is the guy that I most believe can repeat what he did last year.
I mean, there are a couple of guys in the bullpen that I'm a little worried about because
that's a
the
good point.
bullpen is the least predictable thing in baseball.
Who's the guy you're worried about?
I mean, I think Henchus, especially coming off, he's dealing with an injury here and a shoulder. I'm worried about Karinchak. I know wasn't a rookie last year. Well, maybe technically he still was. I don't think so.
He was not technically a rookie.
Okay. But I am worried about Karinchak as well because he's a little bit of a crazy person, and I don't know that I could trust him from year to year. Bullpens are very shaky. It's hard to rely on bullpens.
Year to year, you almost
never know.
never see the success.
Right.
Carry over year to year. There's moving parts. It's tough to duplicate.
It's not that obviously I have a lot of confidence in Emmanuel Clase, but if he struggled this year, you can't you see this all the time. Edwin Diaz, who along with Clase were the two best relief pitchers in baseball last year, his first year on the Mets he was awful. Awful. Yeah. He had been great in Seattle. Then he signed with the Mets, then he got traded to the Mets, and his first year at the Mets he was horrendous. And then he bounced back last year and he was great. So you never know for these guys. I'd be surprised if Clase wasn't great, but in the end, baseball in particular is the most unpredictable sport of any, and the bullpen specifically is the hardest sport to predict. So I have some concerns there, but Oscar Gonzalez, and we talked about this with Zach Meisel last week. His swing is a little crazy. And
big.
He wasn't expected. Crazy's a little strong, but he has some holes in his swing.
Well, I don't think crazy is the wrong word.
Okay.
Because
can you explain why you think his swing is crazy?
Long, but that's not my fear. My fear is his pitch selection's not great.
Right.
And Zach said this, and the first thing I want to do is face a hitter that chases balls. Right. That means I don't have to throw it in his red zone.
Well, and he compared him to Javi Baez. Now, Javi Baez is best. If Oscar Gonzalez is close to Javi Baez at his best, that's great. Because he was
Wasn't Baez, though? He just chased breaking balls. That was his thing. He would chase breaking balls off the plate.
Sure, he did big time. But he swung it. Eventually, they started throwing him everything out. And obviously, I didn't.
Early in his career, it was just like throwing breaking ball outside, he'll swing it.
Obviously, last year, because he was on the Tigers, outside of when he played the Guardians, I didn't really see him play that much last year. But he had a horrendous season.
He's the best example of a guy who is basically, I don't want to say he's irrelevant, but he basically affected his career trajectory because he couldn't have plate discipline.
Right.
And it started with the outside curveball with him.
Right.
And it kind of went everywhere else. But with Oscar swings at pitches. He's an equal opportunity swinger. Yeah. He'll go after anything.
Don't you need a guy like that? Don't you need a guy that in your lineup that's going to strike out a lot?
In this lineup,
it won't kill him in this lineup.
Because there's so many guys that make contact.
But he also has to make contact too. He just does.
Sure.
Because that's the way his team plays.
I mean, is it risk reward if he strikes out?
Yes.
If he strikes out,
but if he's 1,000
times, but he needs 30 home runs.
If he's going to hit me 30 home runs, I don't care that he strikes out a lot.
Yeah, but he had 11 last year?
Right. I don't know that he's going to hit 30 home runs.
Yeah.
I'm saying if he does, I'm okay with the strikeouts because
Yeah.
I know that most of my other hitters are getting on base.
Yeah, here's my
putting
fear
the
for
ball
him.
in play.
April and May are critical months for him. Critical. Because if he doesn't show the ability to have better plate discipline, then the book is just don't throw the guy strike.
Right.
And make him hit bad pitches, which is proven, by the way, he can.
That's
but
right.
he can't do it on a regular basis.
But
I want to see him. I would rather he strike out looking than chase a ball on the edge or out of the strike zone.
At least consistently. Everybody's going to do that once in a while.
Yes.
I think the thing with Gonzalez is, and we've seen this before with other players like him, you could tell me that he's going to be in the MVP conversation in June, and you could tell me he's in the minors in June, and I couldn't be shocked by either.
I'm with you.
It might be an extreme on both, but I think,
Yeah.
Stephen Kwan, I know he's not in the MVP conversation, and I know he's not going to be in the minors. Oscar Gonzalez, he could be killing it, and he could be a disaster and be back playing in Columbus.
And what adds to that argument is what he did in the playoffs. Like, I remember the walk-off home run against the Rays.
Oh, my God.
I've never, and I've been to 2 Game 7s for the Indians. I've never remember my nerves being on more edge than they were for that entire game. It was a one-pitch game the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking it's going to be a mistake. Somebody's going to make a mistake. They're going to throw a routine double play ball into the dugout, give a player a base, a wild pitch with a guy on third. I just felt like it was going to be something fluky because everybody had 5, 6 at-bats and nobody was doing anything, and neither team was built to have that player.
That's right.
And when Gonzalez hit that ball out of the park, it changed the way I look at him because the moment was 10 times bigger than he was, and he had already had some really big moments in that series. And he just came up and hit the home run like he knew he was expecting to hit the home run.
Yeah,
why does it seem like that? I don't know how to explain it. Why does it seem like the Guardians have to start over every year? Like, what I mean by start over, like they don't carry momentum from year to year. So
I don't know that anybody does in baseball.
Well, the Yankees and Dodgers do.
Like, it's the momentum.
The Astros do.
The momentum is almost like.
Does that feel like the U-Bull? I don't feel like we're starting over.
I don't know. I
like
don't.
the momentum with the fans. Like,
with the fans.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Why?
Well, that goes back to what I said about the Browns. That the Browns get the benefit of the doubt every year. We're there. Browns fans are there every year.
We're so excited. We go to practice in training camp and we start screaming Super Bowl.
But the people like you and I that are locked, even if we're not watching the Guardians every day, we're locked into the score.
Everything,
We're paying attention.
The momentum is just not
that
there.
has to build
You're
every
right,
year.
with
That
the
has to
fans.
build.
Yeah, with the fans, you're right. It's not there. One of I mentioned this.
Real quick, Jay, what was it like in
in
2017 after the Guardians or the Indians at the time made the World Series? Did it still start back up?
Big carryover because they made some big offseason signings.
Right. They signed Juan Encarnacion.
Yes, and the team was better.
And the team was, and
we're
they had a
like,
great
okay, if
season.
we can get our pitching
But the
staff.
attendance wasn't up that much.
No, it wasn't.
It was
And
up,
I'll
but
tell
not
you,
up that much.
So compare that to the 90s. Now, if you ask me in the 90s, the excitement for 95 opening day, 96 opening day, 97 opening day was Browns-like. And now there's a lot of things going on there. Number one, we've lost a significant number of residents since then.
Yeah.
That's 20 years ago.
That's crazy.
And our population is down significantly. Really? If you measure us against other major cities, it's down more than most of your major cities. The other thing is we had more entertainment dollars for those late 90s years because we didn't have to spend them on the Browns. So we weren't buying season tickets for the Browns, and there was no Browns to distract us. Yeah. And we knew that. So we were all in on the team we felt could win it.
And plus,
the Indians.
Not that I'm an economics aficionado, but it seems to me that the cost of living has gone up since then way more than salaries have.
There's probably something to that, but Cleveland is an economically depressed city.
Sure.
We are number one in the country in poverty.
Right.
Which, percentage of residents living below the poverty line.
And the amount of,
which is stunning,
right,
but we are.
and the ticket prices in the 90s compared to now versus the amount of money people are making in the city of Cleveland then versus now.
I would like to look at those three things. So
Yeah.
your inflation line from mid-90s, your employment or your wage line from the mid-90s, and the ticket cost line.
Yeah.
Typically, teams are smart. They monitor the other two, and they set the ticket prices based on what those two are doing.
And the
You can't
Guardians'
price your fans
prices,
out of the market.
in comation to other baseball teams, are reasonable.
We're a bargain.
And you can get a cheap ticket in the outfield or whatever.
But the feeling,
But you have to build up that fan.
The feeling when they lost to the Yankees, right?
Yeah.
I remember we
were blowing up when we were doing those post game shows.
yeah.
They were blowing up.
The fans are here,
but
they're dormant for 10 months.
Because
That's so crazy.
Because the Guardians have a much higher percentage of casual fans.
Yeah, they do. You're right. But those casual fans become diehards in September and October.
That's right. That's right.
So the conversion rate and the fact that they hibernate for 10 months out of the year. But there's one other thing that comes into play, and I saw this in the mid-'90s with the Braves. It's actually winter fatigue.
Yes.
By winter fatigue, I don't mean, oh, God, we're sick of winning.
Yeah.
We're consistently either in the playoffs or in the hunt. If you go back during Terry's tenure, we're there.
Yeah.
In the mid-'90s, before they broke through in 95 and beat us in 6 games in the 95 World Series, I was covering that series. So I would go down to Atlanta, and I'd be like, I didn't think I'd ever see this in my lifetime. I'm at a World Series game. It's not a sellout.
Yeah.
Their divisional playoff games, there were 10,000 empty seats.
Yeah.
Because the Braves were like, wake me in October.
Think about how
me
we
when
were
it's the World Series.
To a lesser degree, think about how things were here the last year or two with the second LeBron run.
Yep.
You're right.
The regular season, we were like, it's like, who cares? Like,
You know
get me
what?
to the playoffs.
Buckeyes are playing Toledo. What are you thinking? You're not interested in that.
I'm not watching
You're
it.
not going to Columbus, and
No.
you likely won't even watch
I
it
won't watch
if you
that
have
game.
something else to do.
No.
So I'm not saying that we're the Buckeye. We don't have
certainly
that
not.
kind of dominance, obviously. But fans have become desensitized by making the playoffs. They have one thirst they haven't quenched, and that's winning the World Series.
That's all that matters now.
And to them, they're like, yeah, this is nice. We'll make the playoffs. The Yankees will beat us, so we
Right,
won't
or the
win.
Astros will beat us.
And so they kind of know what the outcome
There's a
is.
sense-
but the
right.
closer you get to that finish line, the more the hype and the energy of the city builds.
And a lot of fans won't jump in for the whole year because they, like you say, they feel like our ceiling is in the playoffs but not winning the World Series. But, Mike, I don't remember if you were here last year, if you had already moved here. I know the show hadn't started yet. If you had moved here, opening day is big.
Always, every year.
Opening day, we used to always do our show at a bar downtown.
Yeah.
The atmosphere downtown for opening day, even though the weather most years sucks on opening day, not every year, but most years.
It's kind of it's the celebration of two things. Spring is here.
Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask most Clevelanders when does spring start, they'll say, March 1st, March 21st, or Indians opening day. And you're right, the weather we've seen snow.
More often than not since I've lived here,
It was
opening
really
day
nice
sucks.
last year. I was here, but I just
It
moved
was
in.
nice.
Yeah.
And I walked around because, Jay, you guys did all the WKYC stuff out there.
And here's the other thing, too. It's a reason to party.
Oh,
And Cleveland loves a reason to party. Like, if March 17th is nice, you know what downtown's going to look like.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be packed with people.
It's insane.
Because it's a celebration.
Oh, Mike's
it's
never
party.
been here for that.
Yeah, Mark,
you never-
you haven't
Oh,
seen,
God.
you haven't seen
I've
St.
not been
Patrick's
to
Day
St.
yet.
Patty's
It's bonkers here.
It's nuts. If it's warm,
Oh, my God.
it feels like the Kentucky Derby. But if it's not, it can be a little disappointing. But people in Cleveland love a reason to party. People
Mm-hmm.
anywhere do. But what's crazy here is opening day will be a sellout. And the next day, if it's 28 or 35 and windy
8,000
and cold,
people.
there'll be 10,000 people there.
Maybe.
That's how it goes.
There'll be 10,000
Right?
tickets
Yeah.
sold.
8,000
I don't know
will
if
be
there's
there.
10,000 people
tickets
there.
sold.
No carry.
I hate that, too,
It
but that's the
sucks.
way it is.
It
That's the
sucks.
reality of it. You top 5 left fielders? You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do top 5 left fielders before we do that, though.
You guys
Let's
are gonna
tell
probably
about
kill me for my
BetJack
number
real
one.
quick. BetJack is in on all the action. It is live in Ohio because sports betting is taking over the great state of Ohio. You can download the BetJack app today. So you'll be ready to go on all the action. BetJack, it is Ohio's sportsbook. If you're not already a member of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, by the way, you can become a member for $1.99. We had something pretty special happen on Friday.
Beautiful.
Over 25 memberships were gifted.
That's why
from
y'all
current
see.
members to now new members. So shout out to all you guys for doing that. That was not
So
just
we not only have the smartest fan base, we have the
most generous.
Most generous. fan
And seriously, like that is something that's so cool. We haven't seen that since we've been doing this.
That's
It was
crazy.
awesome to see. And you guys are the best. We say it all the time, but you guys really are the best. For coaches tier members, which what was gifted, it's less than $5 a month. You get all the same starter tier perks, plus overtime videos, member shoutouts, discount codes for merch. Jason is texting with coaches tier members tonight during the Cavs Celtics game. Might be a JV game with the players on the court, but Jason will bring his A game no matter what. We have a link to get on that text list on the community tab of our YouTube page under the coaches tier.
Hit that like
only
button.
section. So
Like button is
hit
free,
that like button.
McNuggets. It's free.
It is free. It's the easiest thing you can do to help us out. It does make a difference, and we appreciate
The question
you all.
is, does Stephen Kwan make Mike's top 5 left fielders?
I don't think it will. I don't think he will.
By the way, MLB.com does their top 10 at each position right now, you know?
They do.
And Stephen Kwan was 6th.
So
I would have him in 6 to 10. He just doesn't have enough power for me. He's a corner outfield position. He's got to have power, and he has no power.
So I have a theory, and I don't want to derail it too much because Stephen Kwan did win a Gold Glove. Is it safe to say that you just can't win a Gold? You can win all the Gold Gloves you want, and if you can't hit, you're not going to the Hall of Fame?
No, Ozzie Smith did it.
It's like 1 or 2, right?
Yeah,
Ozzie Smith,
I mean, there are exceptions.
You have to be, I mean...
It depends the position you play. At
That's
shortstop, the old shortstop, back when he played
it was different then.
It was different, yeah.
I don't think we're seeing a guy...
left field.
No. We're not seeing a left fielder getting the Hall of Fame defense.
Not with that little bit of pop.
So if Kwan gets 15 Gold Gloves.
Now, it's different if he gets to 3,000 hits.
Okay.
So
No,
he would
he's
need
not a power
longevity.
hitter, right.
Ichiro didn't hit for power, although he could. He was
Neither did Tony
deceptively-
Gwynn.
Neither did
Rod
Tony
Carew.
Gwynn. Right.
I saw a stat yesterday, by the way. You're going to love this. I don't know if I sent this to you guys. Rod Carew, sorry, Mikey, real quick.
He could hit 350.
Rod Carew, over a 10-year stretch, won the batting title 7 times. And the 3 times he didn't win, he had batting averages of, I can't remember the exact number, but roughly 360, 330, and 310.
That was the old baseball. That was our baseball, Bull, and I loved that baseball.
Like Bill Buckner would finish 9th in batting, hitting 325.
325 today.
Sorry, Mike,
Leads
go
the
ahead.
league by a lot.
By a whole lot.
Yeah. All right, who's your number 5?
So there were 7 guys I considered for 5 spots.
No. Well, there's a clear top 3.
I agree, clear top 3.
I don't
but
know
I'm just
about
saying,
that.
overall.
You guys are going to kill me when you
right.
see my number 1.
But I went with Cleveland's Stephen Kwan.
You can make a case for him for 5.
You
I
can't.
did. Here's my case real quick. There's another guy, Taylor Ward on the Angels,
Yeah.
who did not make my top 5.
Wow.
He only played 100 games last year, and while he had better numbers probably overall as a power hitter and really an overall offensive player,
Yeah.
it was 100 games versus Kwan's full season and such a short sample size. I needed to see a little more from Ward longevity-wise.
I didn't have Ward in my top 5 either.
MLB.com had Kwan's MLB, not .com. MLB Network had Kwan 6 and Ward 5.
They did have Ward 5.
Yeah.
See, neither are in my top 5.
Okay.
So I put Kwan at 5. The glove is that good that
I
think
don't
he
have a
could-
problem with that.
yeah, the
I'm
glove
fine
goes
with
a
Kwan.
lot.
I'm fine with Kwan at 5.
I just need more power from a corner outfielder.
I hear, but he does everything else well.
He does everything else above average.
Yes.
Well above average.
The
in some
glove
cases.
is good
Speed,
like that?
arm, defense,
Yeah.
running the bases.
Putting the ball into play.
Not striking.
All right, what's
out,
number 4 for you?
So I have like a baseball crush on this guy.
All right.
Randy Arozarena.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
Yeah, he's really good.
I just like the way he plays. I mean, I don't have a
he
crush
does
on him.
everything. He's at his best in the postseason. He has the single, I guess, postseason record for most home runs in a single postseason.
Yeah.
He plays with nobody else in the lineup for the majority of his time in Tampa Bay, and he still puts up absurd numbers.
Yeah.
I wanted to put him higher. I couldn't.
I have him
but
at 3.
I love
You can't put
Randy
him- oh,
Arozarena.
really?
I have him at 3. I
Higher
love
than
him.
that?
I love him. I love him.
Man, he sound like a
He's a
Gardner.
nice player.
Give me
but-
8 players that play like him. I'm going to win a World
Sounds
Series.
like a Gardner from Wycliffe.
I wonder
All
if
right.
Jay, did you leave out some guys that you might think are DH?
My list, this is the most unconventional list I'll have at any
Okay,
position.
go ahead.
I'll tell you that right now.
You
Number
definitely
3
have
is
some
a-
guys who are DH/left fielders that you put out.
Number 3 is easy.
Yeah, I do,
To
but-
me, 3 was easy. It's got to be Schwarber, right?
It is Schwarber. Yeah.
I have Schwarber at 5.
Oh, you got a Arozarena ahead of Schwarber?
I do.
If Stephen Kwan's your number 1, I'll come out and fight you, Jay.
No, Stephen Kwan did not make my
No,
top 5.
he said he didn't make his
He's
top
in my
5.
6 through 10. I didn't
Okay.
even really seriously consider him. I need power out of that position.
Are you moving other outfielders?
No, I'm not.
Bull, before I say who 2 and 1 are, it's a pretty obvious 2-1 here,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, it's not.
Oh, my God. Yes, it's an obvious dude.
Jay's list is more interesting than mine. Number 2, I put Juan Soto.
I have him too also.
All right, I have him at number 1.
Above
had a
Alvarez?
down year.
He had a
last year.
terrible year last year, but there was a lot going on for him last year.
You must have left out number 1 because you might not have him as a left fielder because he DHs a
No,
lot.
I thought you guys wouldn't put Soto at left field because
Oh, no, we
because he
did.
played right field last year.
Yeah,
But then he played
yeah.
left field in San Diego, which is why.
Yeah, but Bob Melvin has already said he's my left fielder.
Yeah, right.
So I thought maybe you guys might not consider him a left fielder.
Well, the number
But-
1 guy also DHs a lot.
And he is, without a question in my mind,
Phenomenal.
the best left fielder in baseball is Yordan Alvarez.
Yes.
I know he's kind of a DH. I know he's not the greatest fielder. He plays a little first base too, but
Guy's
what
a
he
freak.
does offensively is second to none.
I
would-
agree.
Yeah.
But if Juan Soto can regain his form from 2 years ago,
Yeah, it's a
I know
toss-up.
that's a big if.
I think
but
it's
I'm
a
betting on
toss-up
him.
between those two. I would actually not. I would argue that if I had to choose one for the next 10 years, I'd probably lean towards Soto.
Because of it,
But right now in this moment,
Alvarez is
has
young
played
too, though.
better. No,
Alvarez-
I know. I'm a little more worried about him getting hurt, but
yeah.
he's such a big body.
I love Juan Soto.
Juan Soto's fantastic. I just don't know how you put a Rosarena ahead of Schwarber.
Wait,
Is
so
it because
who's
you hate
your
him?
top 5, Jay?
I have Soto, Alvarez, Arezareno, Tyler O'Neill. You guys didn't mention Tyler O'Neill.
I like Tyler
I think
O'Neill.
that's a swing and a miss by you guys, yes. O'Neill, I thought about putting him at 5 and Schwarber at 4. Ultimately, you said you're worried about Alvarez getting hurt. Schwarber, to me, is at the end. It's closer to the end than the beginning.
But he's been so good the
He's
last
been
couple
great.
years.
He's been
Yeah.
great. And
And the one thing, he's clutch.
he is very clutch.
Very clutch. And
Don't Clevelanders know it?
yes. And
God.
listen, Tyler, to me, I actually am with you.
I thought you'd have
on Tyler
O'Neal.
O'Neill being 5.
Yeah.
I would put him ahead of Ward and Quan. He was banged up last year.
He was.
He missed some time. He's
But
a really
when he plays his ass off.
Well,
he
what
puts
I like
numbers
about
up.
him compared to the other guys in the mix at the bottom of the 5, and even compared to Rosarena's got speed too. But O'Neal is a great defender, and he has speed, and he has power. It's
Yeah.
an unusual combo.
To me,
Do you
he's
think the
Quan
average
with
baseball
power.
fan knows who
No.
Tyler O'Neill is?
No.
No, but that's not how you can't. You
No,
can't
no,
put
no,
your
no.
list that
I'm
way.
just asking.
I would bet 90% of our audience doesn't know what team Tyler O'Neal is on.
He plays in the middle of America. He doesn't play
Well,
on
but
a
we're
coast.
in the middle of America.
Right. And you know what?
Yeah.
I have this discussion with baseball fans.
Yeah.
Not like us, but
Yeah.
guys that know the game.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jose Ramirez is okay. I mean, he's okay.
Who's saying that?
Guys that don't watch him play every day.
What?
And I say, look, it's the same people that that don't know who Tyler O'Neill is.
Right. That's true.
And I can understand why Clevelanders might not know who Tyler O'Neill is just because he's in the National League and
Yeah.
we don't get to see them on a regular basis. But to me, it's the guys that get stuck in these towns, Detroit,
Right.
Milwaukee,
And St. Louis is a great
Kansas
baseball
City.
town, obviously.
St. Louis is a different breed. St. Louis, I think, has the best fans in baseball. I really do.
Well,
St. Louis fans
it's
are...
It's the only city in America where clearly baseball is the most popular sport, right?
They usually
Yeah.
lead the major leagues in ratings.
Right.
Which is
because it's the most, by far, obviously baseball is huge in Boston, it's huge in New York.
They have
There's
other
places.
distractions. They
But,
have hockey, and that's it.
right.
That's it.
St. Louis, even when football was there, even when the Rams were there,
Yeah.
the Cardinals were the most
And
popular
they won
team.
Super Bowls. They don't make no sense. They won Super
Right.
Bowls.
Well,
They
but
did.
the Cardinals
Cardinals have won World
the
Series. though. They've
Cardinals are
always
one
been
of the
good.
best organizations in
The
baseball.
Cardinals are the Steelers of the. I don't know. I don't want to go that far. They're who would they be? They're always great. Their fans are very intelligent. I don't know if you've ever been to a game there.
I call them-
their fans.
Their fans are obnoxious.
They're
though.
obnoxious, but
Yeah.
they're smart. They know the
They
game.
are.
They understand
Well,
the game.
I've been to Wrigley for a lot of Cardinals-Cubs games. And there's
Yeah, well,
always a
that's
ton
why
of
you think they're
Cardinals.
obnoxious.
I compare them to like the Kansas City Chiefs. Like
Okay,
if you
I'll
say
buy that.
if the Chiefs
Tradition.
the tradition, very traditional colors, they're not changing it. Very tough place to play. They always seem to like.
Yeah, they're one of the few
But,
teams.
but I think they're a better franchise historically than the Chiefs are.
Yeah, but think back to the
historically.
Chiefs, like
I mean,
Super
Lamar
Bowls
Hunt,
1, 3.
they-
Like,
Right.
they've always been
in
there.
the middle, they've had some downtime.
Yeah, they did have some
The Cardinals
downtime.
have never. The Cardinals are the Yankees without the flash.
Yeah, and the payroll.
Well, but they have a good payroll for a
They
Midwest
do.
team.
They,
And they
have a fair payroll for
Yes.
what their city is. They get a lot of TV revenue.
They do.
Farm system.
Unlike Cleveland, which we don't.
And
Cleveland doesn't get and by the way, that's another thing. We got to dive into how these games are going to be broadcast, guys.
Yeah, we're getting to that soon. Don't
it's
worry.
gonna-
They have the
we're
Cardinal
in it.
way. They have guys come into that organization, and you're taught to play a certain way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's been there forever, for
You're
as long as I
absolutely
can
right.
remember.
Yeah.
Do you know who else was on my left field list before we get to the race report from Earl?
Who?
And it's something I totally missed last year in baseball. I didn't realize Chris Bryant. I know he got signed by the Rockies. I didn't know he
Yeah.
made the move to left field.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
last year was his first year as a left fielder, and he was terrible.
And he was-
I don't
he
even
was
think
hurt.
he's going to play left field this year now.
He is.
Is he?
I don't
Yeah.
understand it.
Bad experiment.
I don't know why they're doing that. You know, I was critical of the Cubs for not signing those guys, but they were smart. Bryant's been a disaster. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but
1 year.
Schwarber's been great.
No. Schwarber, I hated they let him go at the time. They let him go early.
Yeah.
Schwarber's done a great job, and Rizzo's still
Rizzo,
good. But the Cubs offered Rizzo a fair contract. He turned it down.
Right.
But I meant specifically Baez and Bryant. I thought they would sign one of those guys.
Yeah.
Not signing those guys was smart.
I thought Bryant was going to change the way we looked at the position for 20 years.
He was so good when he came
God,
up.
he was amazing.
He hasn't been able to stay healthy.
I went to a game his first week up. I was in Chicago, and I said, I got to see this kid play. And we sat right by the third base dugout.
Yeah.
And I just remember watching. It seems like such a simple thing, and all the players have it. But watching him make the throw from deep third base, because when he was warming up, he was taking the ball. He was taking the grounders really deep at third.
Hey.
His throw was poetry.
Yeah.
Effortless, such a good straight line, always right in the chest. And I just thought, oh my God. And to look at him, he's physically imposing.
Yeah.
He's
Big
a
dude,
lot
right?
bigger than people think.
I remember
He's a lot
Andre.
bigger
I
than
remember
people think.
talking to Andre Knott at the beginning of the World Series, and he said, "Man, the Cubs are big."
They all
He was
were.
like their whole roster's just so
Schwarber,
big.
Rizzo,
Jason Hayward.
Hayward,
Chapman.
Bryant. These dudes came in. They looked like a
Chapman.
football team.
Yeah, like,
right.
and they had, and it just seemed like they was all young. They just
They were.
they
They
had
were.
everybody in their prime. They was throwing the ball 100 miles an hour. They had pitching.
And that's what it is. And that's why it's so hard in baseball, because a lot of people thought, myself included, that the Cubs were going to be a dynasty. They won one championship.
And that was
they only
it.
have
I thought it was a dynasty.
they only have one player remaining for the 2016 World Series. You know who it is?
Oh, that's a great question. Pitcher or fielder?
Technically, that's not true, because they have Jan Gomes on the Cubs now too, and he played the 2016 World Series, but obviously he was on the Indians. Who is
David
the
Ross.
No,
Well,
Ross
David.
was.
Well, is the manager.
Yeah,
I know. Well, you didn't clarify. He counts.
No,
Okay.
roster on the player.
Who is the only player on the Cubs roster that was on the 2016 World Series team? Oh. And he was a starter. I'll give you that.
Contreras?
No, he's gone. He just signed with the Cardinals. He was the second last to go. He's a pitcher, starting pitcher.
Oh, he's a pitcher.
Not a big, sexy name, but he.
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking of the big names that I remember.
Not Kyle Hendricks?
Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah,
that's it.
Hendricks. That's right.
Good, solid pitcher.
Where's Theo Epstein now?
He doesn't have a set job.
He's
with the
just
team.
chilling.
I mean,
He left.
how?
I think he wants to kind of. I don't know. I don't know if he wants to be baseball
I don't think
commissioner.
he wants to, because if he maybe.
Oh, he'd have a
commissioner.
job easy.
He could anywhere he wants.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I've read something. This may not be true, and we're gonna do Earl's race report in a sec. But doesn't he want to get and try to do what he did in baseball in another sport now?
I don't know about
No,
that.
I hope he
hadn't
doesn't.
heard that.
I hope he doesn't.
Almost
I've
do
heard
what
rumblings
DeCosta's
he wants
doing,
to be
but do it
commissioner.
right.
No, DePodesta. And
DePodesta, sorry, not
DePodesta
DeCosta.
isn't doing it well.
That's what I'm saying. I think he
Yeah,
wants
no,
to
let's
take
not do
that
that.
path.
Don't
I
tarnish
hadn't
what
heard
you've
that.
done.
I hadn't heard that.
If he never serves as a general manager again, he goes down in history as the best general manager in sports, period, end of it. Full stop.
Yes.
He took the Red Sox and ended their dismal run, and he did the same with the Cubs.
Yeah.
And
That's it. Lock Hall of
you
Famer.
can't beat that. You can't
It is
beat
crazy. All right, guys, it is the last time of the week to tell you that Collie Racing is our 12 o'clock sponsor. And today,
the day.
we have a special race recap from Earl and his new microphone, even though the camera can't really pan over there. But Earl, what happened this weekend in Vegas?
All right, man. So, Collie Racing, shout out to Justin Haley, man. Started 26, finished 8th. Didn't lead any laps, but he ran in the top 15 all race long. Wasn't really a good day for A.J. Allmendinger. He started 23rd, finished 18th. He was actually involved in a last lap crash. The car really didn't have much speed. He really couldn't find his way towards the front. Overall, though, it was a great race weekend in Vegas. Will Byron, who races the number 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports, ended up winning the race at Las Vegas. Rounding out the top 5 was Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, and Bubba Wallace's teammate. The next race is at Phoenix, the Ultimate Rentals Work United 500.
Hey, they did really well Saturday, right? Didn't they have 2 in the top 5?
They actually did very, very well, Jay, on Saturday.
Yeah.
All 3 of the drivers finished in the top 10.
That is incredible. And really, honestly, and
That's
you know
tough.
this, Earl, it is such a hard sport to penetrate. And I think Matt kind of expected that he would come right in and have the same success at on the big circuit, but he's gradually making a real solid name for himself in the sport. And the successes that he's having in the Infinity Series, I'm not overstating this, Earl, it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
No, I think it is incredible, especially when you look at the Xfinity Series. Like you said, it's harder to compete at the Cup level.
Right.
But he's building one of the most dominant teams in an Xfinity Series, and I think that's pretty cool. I look at teams like JR Motorsports. You know, Joe Gibbs has a team in Xfinity, but Collie Racing is basically starting to step right there with the big dogs and make their name in that
Very nice.
in that series.
Very, very nice. All right, good luck to them in Phoenix this week as the circuit rolls on. All right, we're done. We're going to overtime. What's our topic today?
We're going to finish the viewer questions we didn't get to on Friday.
Okay.
We'll see you then.
We'll see you on the other side.
And we got something special for y'all tomorrow, which you guys don't even know about yet. So you're in for a treat.
Are we going to find out in overtime what's special tomorrow?
I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
We're going to finally
Tune
do
in.
Dead or Alive?
Close.